Meet Trey Camby. Hailing from a small town in Arizona, Trey has always had a passion for football. Throughout his high school career, he not only led his team to multiple championships, but also shattered records that had stood for years. His leadership on the field and ability to perform under pressure earned him respect from teammates and coaches alike. You'd think such an impressive resume would make him a coveted recruit, right? Well, here's the catch. Despite all his accolades, Trey was rated as a 2-star recruit. In the world of college football, stars often dictate a player's future. The higher the rating, the more attention a player receives from top programs. But for Trey, that 2-star label felt like a challenge he was determined to overcome. While other players with higher ratings received offers from elite programs, Trey stayed focused, driven by a desire to prove his worth and showcase his talent. Then came the moment that would change everything. Arizona State University saw something in Trey that others overlooked. They offered him a full scholarship, a chance to step onto a Division I stage, a chance to compete at the highest level. This wasn't just an opportunity, it was a validation of all the hard work he'd put in over the years. But joining Arizona State would be no easy task. Trey was about to enter a world filled with elite athletes, many of whom had the 5-star status he didn't. He knew he had to fight for his place on the team and earn the respect of his coaches and teammates. The pressure was palpable, but so was his determination. What fuels a player like Trey to keep pushing forward? It's the underdog spirit, the belief that greatness can come from unexpected places. With every practice, every drill, and every moment on the field, Trey isn't just working to secure his spot, he's rewriting the narrative of what it means to be a 2-star recruit. As we follow Trey's journey at Arizona State, we'll explore the obstacles he faces, the lessons he learns, and the bonds he builds with his teammates. This is a story about resilience, grit, and the power of believing in yourself against all odds. So, join us as we delve into the remarkable journey of Trey Camby, the underdog quarterback ready to make his mark in college football, and show the world that sometimes the brightest stars emerge from the most unlikely places.
Now it's time to pack your bags and head off to college. Good luck on your career. I'll be rooting for you.
Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook, where we dive deep into the stories that inspire, shock, and sometimes disappoint. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jamie. Today we're talking about an intriguing prospect at Arizona State University, a freshman quarterback who's redshirting this season. His name is Trey Camby, and there's a lot of buzz around him even though he won't be taking the field just yet.
That's right. Trey was a standout in high school, breaking records and leading his team to the state championship. I'm really optimistic about his potential. What about you, Jamie?
Well, I'm not so sure, Mike. I mean, redshirting is a long wait, and it's not just about talent. It's about adjusting to the college game, especially at a place like ASU where the competition is fierce.
True, but that's why I think redshirting could actually benefit him. He'll get a year to learn the system, build chemistry with the team, and adapt to the physicality of college football.
I get that, but there are so many factors at play. What if he struggles to keep up in practice? There's a reason he's not starting. Other quarterbacks, like the incumbent starter and the highly touted transfer, are ahead of him for a reason.
But think about it. Many successful quarterbacks faced similar situations. Look at players like Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes. They sat and learned before becoming stars. Trey has that same potential, and sitting out this year could give him the tools to excel later.
I'm not saying he can't develop, but there's also the risk that he gets lost in the shuffle. With the transfer portal being so active, if he doesn't see playing time soon, he might look elsewhere. Confidence is crucial for a young player, and sitting on the bench for too long could hurt him.
Fair point, but I believe in his work ethic. The coaching staff is high on him, and that's significant. He's got the drive to prove himself. Plus, redshirting means he has more time to refine his skills without the immediate pressure of game day.
But it's not just about refinement. College is a different beast. The mental side of the game is as important as the physical. He needs to develop that football IQ, and if he's not getting real game experience, will he really be ready when his number is called?
He can learn a lot from the sidelines, though. Watching film, learning from mistakes in practice, there's so much value in that. And let's not forget, ASU's offensive scheme might play to his strengths once he's ready. If he can grasp the system now, it'll set him up for success when he does get to play.
I hope you're right, but I'm still skeptical. There's a fine line between developing and stagnating. If he doesn't step up in practice, how long will the coaches stick with him before considering other options?
Well, every player's journey is unique. I think Trey has the talent and determination to rise to the occasion. If he embraces this redshirt year, he might surprise everyone down the road.
Maybe. I'm just cautious. I've seen so many promising players get lost in the system. We'll have to keep an eye on him and see how he handles this year.
Absolutely. It's a long season, and this story is just getting started.
And that's what makes college football so thrilling. We'll be back next week to discuss more stories and updates from the world of sports.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts on Trey. Are you a believer or a skeptic? Until next time, keep rooting for the underdogs.
Sayonara.
Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jamie. Today we're diving into the journey of redshirt quarterback Trey Camby and how his season unfolded despite his team facing a lot of struggles.
That's right. Trey had to sit out his first year, watching as the team struggled with a freshman transfer quarterback at the helm.
It was a challenging season for the team, no doubt. They had a lot of ups and downs, and it was tough to see them not performing at their best.
Exactly. But what's really interesting is how Trey used that redshirt year to his advantage. While he didn't play, he was still very much a part of the team.
Definitely. He was on the sidelines, soaking up all the knowledge he could. You could see him analyzing plays and learning from the mistakes made on the field.
And that's crucial. Sometimes being on the sidelines gives you a different perspective. He got to study defenses and see how the game unfolds in real time.
Right. Plus, he had the chance to build relationships with his teammates. Even if he wasn't throwing passes, he was still connecting with them, which is key for a future leader.
Absolutely. That camaraderie can make a huge difference. And while the team was struggling, Trey's work ethic stood out. Reports said he was always the first one in and the last one out.
That's so important. He was committed to improving even when things weren't going well. That kind of determination speaks volumes about his character.
For sure. It's not easy to stay motivated when you're not playing, but Trey used that time to prepare himself mentally and physically for when he gets his shot.
And when that moment comes, he'll be ready. He'll have the experience of watching a full season, plus the skills he's honed during practice.
Exactly. It's about building a solid foundation. Trey's journey can inspire so many young athletes who might find themselves in similar situations.
Definitely. It's a reminder that sometimes stepping back can actually help you leap forward in the long run.
Well said, Jaime. We're excited to see how Trey's story continues to unfold. Thanks for joining us, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. Until next time, keep believing in the underdog.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. What haven't we? You know the planes and the Taylor gang and the
Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook. I'm Kay Adams.
And I'm Taylor Rooks. We're diving into the heart of the college football season here in our second season.
Today we're focusing on a story that embodies everything we love about the underdog spirit in college football. Trey Camby, the redshirt freshman quarterback at Arizona State University.
That's right. Trey started the season as the backup, battled hard for that position, and after a series of ups and downs, he's earned a chance to compete for the starting job.
It's a roller coaster, isn't it? Let's break it down. Trey's journey started with a fierce competition for the backup spot. He pushed hard, but it wasn't until week 3 that his number got called.
Right. He came into that game against Texas State when the starter went down. It wasn't an easy game for him.
Definitely. He struggled at times, but showed flashes of potential, leading his team to a tough win. What do you think that experience did for him, Taylor?
I think it was crucial. Facing adversity can either break you or make you stronger. For Trey, it was about resilience. Even when the game was tough, he still found a way to rally his team.
After that game, he was benched again. But it didn't take long for the team to see success without him. Arizona State beat Fresno State 33-31 in week 4. They showed a lot of heart in that game, but then came the loss to West Virginia in week 6, 48-17. That must have been hard for the team and for Trey watching from the sidelines.
It's tough to sit back and watch, especially after he tasted that starting role. But then came the week 7 game against Texas Christian University, a nail-biter ending in an 18-13 victory. What a way to bounce back for the team. But here's the big story. Trey's head coach pulled him aside post-game and let him know he'd have the chance to compete for the starting job against Texas Tech.
That's a pivotal moment. Let's think about the implications here. What does this opportunity mean for Trey moving forward?
It's huge. This is his chance to prove he can lead the team. It's also a moment for him to show that he learned from his past struggles and can perform under pressure.
And it raises questions for fans and analysts. Will he approach this start differently after his earlier experiences?
Absolutely. He has to manage the pressure while also being a leader on the field. The team needs confidence, and he needs to inspire that.
So with Texas Tech coming up, what are some key areas Trey needs to focus on in practice?
First and foremost, he has to work on his decision-making under pressure. Texas Tech is going to bring a tough defense, and he needs to read the field quickly.
Agreed, and communication with his receivers will be crucial. Timing and trust will be key, especially if he's still building that rapport.
Let's not forget about mental preparation. He'll need to stay focused, block out distractions, and maintain that killer instinct.
Definitely. And what about the fan and media expectations? It's a double-edged sword. Everyone wants to see him succeed, but there's also that pressure to perform.
Exactly. Fans can be passionate and they want to see progress. But if he stays grounded and plays his game, that pressure can turn into motivation.
After we come back from a quick commercial break, we're going to be joined live by Rachel DeMita, who is currently at Arizona State's football facility, to talk more about our featured segment.
Okay, this ain't the life that we chose, but it's the life that we live in. Know we belong on the top, but we ain't tripping, cause we'll get there in a minute. Yeah, we'll get there in a minute, cause we'll get there in a minute. Know we belong on the top, but we ain't tripping, cause we'll get there in a minute.
Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook. We're thrilled to have sports journalist Rachel DeMita with us. Rachel has been reporting live from Arizona State's football facility, and she's got some incredible insights on Trey's development. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to chat about Trey and what's been happening at ASU.
Let's get right into it. Trey started the season as a backup, but he's quickly become a focal point for the team. From your observations, how has he grown as a quarterback since the start of the season?
Great question, Kay. I've seen significant growth in Trey's game management and decision making. Initially, he struggled with reading defenses, but he's become more composed. His ability to process the game has really improved, especially after being thrown into that tough situation against Texas State.
It's impressive how he handled that pressure. How about his leadership in the locker room? Being a young guy, what's that been like for him?
He's really stepped up in that regard. Trey understands that leadership isn't just about being the quarterback, it's about building relationships. He makes a point to check in with every staff member in the facility, which is pretty unique for a freshman.
That's amazing. It shows a lot of maturity for someone his age. Have you seen any specific ways he's tried to bond with his teammates?
Absolutely. One thing he does is take his teammates out for golf during their downtime. It's a relaxed environment where they can connect off the field, and it helps build camaraderie within the team.
That's a great strategy. Team chemistry can be so crucial, especially for a quarterback. What kind of vibe have you noticed from the team towards Trey?
The guys really rally around him. They respect his work ethic and the effort he puts in, not just on the field, but also in fostering those personal connections. You can tell they trust him, which is vital for a young quarterback.
Now, heading into the Week 8 matchup against Texas Tech, this is a huge moment for Trey. How does this game shape up for him personally?
It's massive. Not only is it the biggest game of his career so far, but it also might be his only chance to prove he has what it takes to start for a Division I program. The pressure is on, but I think he thrives in those moments.
What are some specific challenges you think he'll face against Texas Tech?
Texas Tech has a dynamic defense. They'll test Trey's ability to read coverages and react quickly. If he can manage that pressure and execute, it could really solidify his spot as the starter moving forward.
And what about the support from the coaching staff? How do they feel about Trey stepping into this role?
The coaches are optimistic but realistic. They've been impressed with his maturity and growth. They're giving him the tools he needs to succeed, but also emphasizing that he must play within himself. They want to see him be a leader on the field.
That makes sense. The balance between confidence and humility can be tough for a young player.
Exactly, and I think Trey gets that. He's been vocal about wanting to improve and is open to feedback, which is critical for a player in his position.
Let's talk a bit about the fan base. What's the vibe like among ASU fans regarding Trey?
There's a lot of excitement. Fans love an underdog story, and Trey fits that bill perfectly. They're rallying behind him, especially after his initial performance this season. The community is really hoping he can take this opportunity and run with it.
If he does perform well, what could that mean for his future at Arizona State?
A strong showing could open up a lot of doors. It might solidify him as the starter for the remainder of the season and potentially make him a key player moving forward. It could also impact recruiting as future players see that Arizona State is developing talent and giving young guys a chance, and with his head coach willing to invest in his development, this could truly be a special experience.
That's a great point. It's not just about this season, but also setting a foundation for the future.
What's your prediction for Trey's performance against Texas Tech?
I think he'll rise to the occasion. He's shown that he can handle pressure, and with the support he has around him, I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a breakout game.
We'll be watching closely. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
As we wrap up, let's talk about the bigger picture. If Trey does well against Texas Tech, how does that change the narrative around him and the program?
It could be a game changer. A strong performance can solidify his place as a starter and boost the morale of the entire team. It could shift the trajectory of the season.
And it would set up such an exciting storyline for the rest of the year. The Trey Canby story could be one for the ages.
We'll definitely be following this closely. So what do you think, listeners? Can Trey rise to the occasion?
We can't wait to find out. Thank you for tuning in to the Underdog Playbook.
Join us next week as we continue to follow Trey's journey and discuss the highs and lows of college football.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep rooting for those underdogs.
This ain't the life that we chose, but this the life that we live in. Know we belong on the top, but we ain't tripping, cause we'll get there in a minute. Yeah, we'll get there in a minute, cause we'll get there in a minute. Know we belong on the top, but we ain't tripping, cause we'll get there in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Carolina stand up. I'm good to go, yo. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook. I'm Kay Adams.
And I'm Taylor Rooks. We're excited to recap the roller coaster ride of Arizona State's season, especially for redshirt freshman quarterback Trey Canby.
Last week, we talked about Trey's big opportunity against Texas Tech. He really stepped up, passing for 185 yards with 2 touchdowns, though he did have 1 interception.
That's right. That win was a huge confidence boost for him, but it wasn't all smooth sailing after that.
Exactly. After that Texas Tech game, Arizona State faced the University of Houston and suffered a 31-24 loss. Trey had the team in a good position for most of the game, but he struggled late and threw that crucial interception.
That's the tough part of being a young quarterback. You can start strong, but then face adversity late in games, and it's all about how you respond.
And then, just when fans were hoping for a bounce back, Arizona State fell to the University of Utah in a rough 58-14 blowout. It was a tough outing for Trey, who struggled almost the entire game.
That's a hard pill to swallow for any player, especially someone still finding their footing in college football.
Let's dive deeper into these games and what they mean for Trey's development. We're also excited to have sideline reporter Rachel Demita join us after the break for her insights.
But first, let's talk about the Texas Tech game a little more. Kay, what stood out to you about Trey's performance?
I thought he showed a lot of poise, especially early on. Those 2 touchdowns were indicative of his potential, but the interception late in the Houston game really highlighted how critical those moments are for a quarterback.
Exactly. It's one thing to lead for most of the game, but when it comes down to crunch time, that's when you have to make those pivotal decisions.
And against Utah, it felt like everything went wrong. It's tough for any quarterback to succeed in a game like that where the defense is just overpowering.
True. It can really affect your confidence. So much depends on the offensive line's protection and the overall team dynamics.
All right, let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Rachel Demita to break down these recent performances.
I woke up early in the morning, hoes blowing up my phone. Yeah, ain't no use of small talking when they know I'm trying to bone. Fuck 'em. I holler later, man. Right now my mind's elsewhere. My mom's healthcare. Get out this hell here. A lot of niggas fail, frail niggas won't prevail here. We seen it all, man. Niggas can't even spell scared. A fresh prince, but yo, my city ain't no Bel Air. Fuck if you excel, I'm worried about my welfare. So farewell to them broke days and bonjour to the most paid. Soon as my dough straight, I throw the wifey in some Dolce and put some chains on my niggas like I own slaves. I get up, look out the window, hope the sun shine, and down on them niggas out there front line. I hit the streets and see them boys out there locking up some older head. Say, goddamn, homie, hold your head and hold your head. I get up, I see the clouds from my window. I pray the sun gon' shine this way. And where I go is the wind blow. Mama, your son gon' find his way. And if I gotta crawl, I'ma make it to the end, though. And to the top, if I climb my way, I'ma take them to the rise, I'm headed for the sky, paint a picture that's so...
Welcome back. We're thrilled to have Rachel Demita with us today. Rachel, thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Excited to talk about the latest developments at Arizona State.
So, Rachel, let's start with that Texas Tech game. What was the vibe like on the field, and how did Trey handle the pressure?
The atmosphere was electric. Trey came out with a lot of confidence, and you could see that early in the game. The team rallied around him, especially after he threw those 2 touchdowns.
What do you think changed for him in the following games against Houston and Utah?
It seemed like the pressure really built in the Houston game. He played well for most of the game, but that late interception was a tough blow. In the Utah game, the team struggled as a whole. The defense was relentless, and it looked like Trey was trying to do too much to compensate.
That's such a common trap for young quarterbacks. They want to lead their team, but sometimes it leads to mistakes.
Exactly. And the reality is, when the entire team is struggling, it's hard for one player to turn things around.
So moving forward, what's the focus for Trey in practice this week?
He needs to focus on decision-making and staying within the game plan. The coaches will be working with him to build his confidence and reinforce that he doesn't have to do everything alone.
And how has the coaching staff reacted to these ups and downs?
They're supportive. They see the potential in Trey and understand he's still developing. The emphasis will be on learning from these experiences rather than dwelling on them.
Great insights, Rachel. As we look ahead, Arizona State has 4 crucial games left: Colorado, Iowa State, Baylor, and then the Territorial Cup against Arizona.
Those matchups will be important for Trey's growth. It's a chance to finish the season strong and really showcase what he's capable of.
Thank you so much for your insights, Rachel. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to seeing how the season unfolds.
What it's like to listen and speak the words and tell a blind man what he missing. For all my niggas doing time, man, up in prison. Thought you had to resort to crime, man, fuck the system. We raising babies up in Hades where it ain't no hope. Ain't no fathers, don't take no scholarship to sling no dope. Politicians hollering about problems, but I ain't gon' vote. Keep talking about change, still we floating in the same old boat. So tell me how I'm supposed to feel with the president's vote, when he ain't never had to struggle, ain't never been broke. Ain't even rolled through the ghetto, ain't never been close. Trusting this government like trusting the devil and oath. For rebel with quotes I get up. Lifestyles of the young, black and reckless. A generation of niggas strapped and asking questions like, tell me why I ain't got shit. I let this liquor fill my liver with them toxics. As I sip, I get
Welcome back to another episode of the Underdog Playbook. I'm Kay Adams.
And I'm Taylor Rooks.
Today, we're going back into the roller coaster ride of Arizona State's redshirt freshman quarterback, Trey Canby. I still don't know how to process this story, coming off those tough games against Colorado and Iowa State.
Seriously, right? The Colorado game was rough. Trey struggled, throwing multiple turnovers in that 42-37 loss. He had opportunities to take the lead, but just couldn't capitalize.
I know, Taylor. It's easy to feel skeptical after that performance. He just seemed a bit overwhelmed.
Totally. And when you're in the spotlight like that, every mistake feels magnified. I think a lot of fans are starting to wonder if he's the right fit for this high-pressure situation, and I can't blame them. When you promise high value and don't perform well, it leaves a bad stain.
I was feeling that way too, but then I looked at the Iowa State game the following week. Wow, what a turnaround.
Yes, I'll admit it, this game, Trey completely flipped the script. He passed for 288 yards at a 47% completion rate, 4 passing touchdowns, and even a rushing touchdown. And that game-winning drive,
it was like watching a different player. He really showed his dual threat capability.
Exactly, but can he maintain that level of performance moving forward? That's the big question.
After that game, you could sense the energy shift in the locker room. They needed that win to break the losing streak.
Trey was running throughout the building, laughing and displaying the energy that made his teammates believe in his ability to lead them in situations like this one.
After we come back from break, our friend Rachel Demita joins us. Stay tuned. All right, folks, we're back. We have a special guest joining us today, Rachel Demita, our favorite sideline reporter. Rachel, welcome back.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. It's always great to chat about the Sun Devils.
So Rachel, after that win against Iowa State, what's the mood like in the Arizona State building?
It's been electric. You can feel the relief and the excitement. Trey's performance has really lifted spirits. In my interview with the head coach, he emphasized how crucial this win was for the team's confidence.
What did he say about the upcoming matchups against Baylor and Arizona?
He's looking forward to closing out the season strong. He mentioned that they're planning to heavily involve Trey in the game plan. They believe he can thrive in pressure situations after proving himself last week.
That's great to hear. It sounds like they're sticking to their previous statements and rallying around him.
Absolutely. There's a lot of positive energy, and the team believes they can build off this momentum going forward into the offseason as well.
Thanks for the insight, Rachel. It's always a pleasure having you on.
Thank you. Can't wait to see how the rest of the season unfolds.
It doesn't.
Okay, callers, we're going to go ahead and open up these phone lines. I need y'all to call in and let me know what y'all want to hear tonight, you know. If you with somebody, you know, you want me to put something on, you know, we going to do that for you. Right now, what we going to do, though, you know, I need everybody to call in, you know. If you ain't got nobody, you know, we need everybody to describe like that perfect person. You know what I'm saying? And what would you say to that perfect person? You know what I'm saying? If given a chance. How important is conversation?
I need an interview, I'm trying to get down with you. I need an interview, I'm trying to get down with you. I need an interview, I'm trying to get down with you. Get down with you, get down with you. I need an interview, I'm trying to get down with you. I need an interview, I'm trying to get down with you. I need an interview, I'm trying to get down with you. Yeah, get down with you. Yeah, get down with you. Come on.
We're back again, and we have a very special guest joining us, the legendary head coach, Nick Saban. Coach, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kay. It's a pleasure to talk about Trey.
Coach, after watching Trey's recent performances, what advice would you give him to improve his skills as a quarterback?
First and foremost, focus on your fundamentals. Consistency is key. He has the talent, but honing his decision-making under pressure will elevate his game.
That makes sense. Do you think he has the potential to be a championship quarterback?
Well, winning national championships is no small feat. It requires a unique level of focus and commitment. Not everyone achieves that, but Trey certainly has the potential if he puts in the work.
It sounds like a balancing act between talent and mentality.
Exactly. The mental side of the game is just as important as the physical. He needs to embrace the challenges, learn from them, and keep pushing forward.
Thank you, Coach Saban. Your insights are invaluable.
Anytime. Good luck to Trey and the team.
Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook.
We're looking forward to the exciting finish of Arizona State's season, focusing on their redshirt freshman quarterback, Trey Camby.
After that game-winning drive in his last outing, the stakes are high as he heads into the final games against Baylor and the University of Arizona.
Absolutely. First up, they've got Baylor on the road. It's a tough environment, and I want to see Trey finish strong. Consistency is key for him right now.
I couldn't agree more. A consistent performance would really set him up for a solid sophomore season. He needs to establish that reliability as a quarterback.
Right. I think if he can limit turnovers and maintain composure under pressure, it'll show that he's maturing as a player. That's what fans want to see.
And for me, I really want to see him showcase that big play ability we know he has. He's shown flashes of brilliance. Now it's time to put it all together.
Exactly. If he can lead his team to tough victories, especially against a rival like Arizona in the Territorial Cup, it would be a huge confidence booster.
The rivalry game is always intense. That's where leadership truly shines. Trey has to rally his teammates and make the big plays when it counts.
It's a pivotal moment for him. If he can handle the pressure of a rivalry game and deliver, it would really set the tone for his future at ASU.
Plus, with everything on the line, it's a chance for him to solidify his role as the leader of this team. He needs to embrace that challenge.
And, you know, the fans are going to be fired up. This is a game they circle on their calendars every year.
For sure. It's a chance to not just win a game, but to win a rivalry. Those are the moments that define a player's legacy.
So as we head into these final matchups, let's hope Trey builds off that last performance and ends the season on a high note.
Absolutely. The next couple of games are going to be crucial for his development. We'll be cheering him on.
Thanks for tuning into the Underdog Playbook. Be sure to subscribe and let us know your thoughts on Trey's journey.
Until next time, everyone, stay hopeful and keep rooting for the underdogs.
Get on your job, tell them haters get on your job, motivation. Get on your job, tell them haters get on your job, motivation. Haters better get on your job, tell them haters get on your job, motivation. Sucker, get on your job. If you hatin', get on your job. You can look me in my eyes, see I'm ready for whatever. Anything don't kill me, make me better. I ain't dead, you can take the fame and the cheddar and the game and the deal. I'm still a go-getter. Take my freedom for the moment, but it ain't forever. I got the spirit of a god, heart of a killer. I'm a king, seen hanging with some cold killers. I ain't never backed down or ran from no. I ain't sat down yet. Here I stand to gorilla. Even if I'm all alone, I stand at folks and tell them jump. Dipping, they don't get no realer. 5'9" with the soul of a 6'4". I separated the fakes, paralyzed from the waist down. From the real stand-up guys of the A-town. Can't even look me in my eyes, put your face down. I'm out of jail, what you gotta say now?
Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook, where we shine a spotlight on the grit, the grind, and the glory of college football. I'm Kay Adams.
And I'm Taylor Rooks. Today, we're diving deep into the whirlwind season of Arizona State's redshirt freshman quarterback, Trey Canby. With just 2 games left in the season, the stakes couldn't be higher.
That's right. Last week, Trey and the Sun Devils faced off against Baylor in a heart-wrenching matchup that ended in a 23-30 loss. And Taylor, while Trey showed some incredible flashes of talent, those turnovers are becoming a recurring nightmare.
Oh, absolutely. It's like watching a high-wire act. You can see the potential, but the missteps could lead to a fall. Trey had some standout moments, but he also threw a couple of critical interceptions that really turned the tide against his team.
Exactly. You could feel the momentum swing. At one point, Arizona State was up and you thought they might be able to control the game. But those turnovers, not just the picks, but also a fumble, allowed Baylor to capitalize and flip the script. It felt like a game they let get out of hand.
For sure. I think the most frustrating part for fans is seeing a young quarterback who can make those big plays but struggles with consistency. It's like he's playing at 2 speeds, lightning fast when he's making those deep throws, but then just off the mark when it comes to protecting the ball.
And that's the crux of it, isn't it? You can't win games if you're giving the ball away, especially in crucial moments. It's like handing your opponent a free pass to score. In college football, the margin for error is razor thin.
Right. And in a game where the defense isn't exactly holding its own, you can't afford to dig your own grave. Those turnovers felt almost inexcusable, especially with so much on the line. Trey needs to learn to manage those high-pressure situations better if he wants to lead this team.
Totally agree. And let's not forget about the rest of the team. The offensive line struggled to protect him at times, and it seemed like he was running for his life on several plays. But he has to find a way to keep his composure and make better decisions.
Yes, it's a learning curve, no doubt, but the clock is ticking. And after the break, when we break down the University of Arizona game, the pressure was really on. Some lingering questions were, how does he go into that game mentally after a loss like this? Does he bounce back, or does he let those turnovers haunt him?
He's got to focus on putting the past behind him and using this experience to fuel him. A game like this can be a turning point if he approaches it the right way. But, you know, it also starts with the coaching staff. They need to help him refine his decision-making and find ways to capitalize on his strengths.
Exactly. And speaking of strengths, let's talk about some of those big plays he made. There were moments when he connected with his receivers that had everyone on the edge of their seats.
Right. It's all about harnessing that potential. It could set the tone for the next season and give fans something to be excited about.
So, coming up, we'll break down what Arizona State needs to do to support Trey and discuss how to turn those mistakes into lessons. Stay tuned.
Only gonna inspire motivation. All you hating is fuel to my fire. Motivation. Chicken plotting on the crown, salt dry. It's motivation. Hey, but I ain't slowing down, I ain't stopping. Motivation. Yeah, don't stop my show. Motivation. Yeah, you know I don't stop, I grow. It's motivation. Sucker can't make me suffer. Just make me stronger and make me tough. It's motivation. In a box, looking happy to see. Put anybody on top, any rapper but T. I P. Back to reality, G. OD still carrying me. I run this. Spread your rumors, kick all your little dumb tell lies, laugh about the time that I'm gon' get. Make you feel better, picture me over and done with. Punk, come with all the gossip you can come with. Small thing to a giant, I can overcome this. Jail, I done this. Rap, I'm just having fun with. I could be a local joker, never had one hit. New finish alone to get me dumb rich. Why these rappers selling records, getting pennies? If grand hustle sell any, I'ma get plenty. If God with me, who can be against me? Sucker can't make me suffer, just make me tough. Motivation, chicken spanking only gonna inspire. Motivation, all you hating is fuel to my fire. Motivation, chicken plotting on the crown, salt dry. It's motivation. Hey, but I ain't slowing down, I ain't stopping. Motivation, yeah, don't stop my show. Motivation, yeah, you know I don't stop, I grow. It's motivation, sucker can't make.
Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook. We're diving deeper into the fallout from Arizona State's heartbreaking 2017 loss to the University of Arizona. Joining us now is our sideline reporter, Rachel Demita. Rachel, what's the vibe like in the locker room after that tough game?
Hey guys, it's definitely a cloudy atmosphere. The frustration is palpable. The players are feeling the weight of that rivalry loss, especially with the stakes so high. Trey Camby showed a lot of heart out there, but those 7 turnovers, 6 interceptions, and 1 fumble really overshadowed any of the positives.
That's such a tough pill to swallow. I mean, Trey was trying to lead his team, but those mistakes just can't happen, especially in a game that meant so much to everyone involved.
Exactly. After the game, I spoke to some players, and the consensus was that there's a lot of confusion about the quarterback situation moving forward. Trey has talent, but the turnovers are a huge concern. It's left the coaching staff with some tough decisions to make for next season.
It's like a double-edged sword, isn't it? You want to develop a young quarterback with potential, but you also can't ignore the impact of those turnovers on the team's morale and performance. What are you hearing in terms of the coaching staff's thoughts on Trey?
From what I gathered, there's recognition of his potential and determination, but there's also concern about consistency. They see flashes of brilliance, but then you have a game like this where everything seems to unravel. They're really weighing the pros and cons of sticking with him versus potentially bringing in someone else.
That's such a tough situation. You want to give a young guy a chance, but at some point you have to think about the team's success overall. Is there any indication of who might be in the running for that starting spot next season?
Not yet, but there are a few names floating around. The coaching staff has a couple of promising recruits in mind, and there's some buzz about potentially bringing in a transfer quarterback. It's going to be an interesting offseason, that's for sure.
I can imagine. And in a rivalry game, losing like this can have lingering effects on the entire program. How do you think the team can recover from this as they look ahead?
I think it starts with leadership. The seniors need to step up and help the younger guys process this loss, turning it into a learning experience. They need to focus on building confidence in whoever is at the helm next season. It's crucial to keep the morale high, despite this setback.
Absolutely. And let's not forget that consistency will be key for whoever ends up starting. It's all about developing a game plan that plays to their strengths and minimizes mistakes.
Agreed. Rachel, thanks for giving us that insight into the locker room. It sounds like there's a lot of work to do, but hopefully this team can use this experience to grow and improve going forward.
Thanks, Kay. I'm looking forward to seeing how they navigate this challenge.
Just make me stronger and make me tough. Motivation. Gotta get on your job. Tell them haters get on your job. Motivation. Get on your job. Tell them haters get on your job. Hey, motivation. Haters better get on your job. Tell them haters get on your job. It's motivation. Sucker, get on your job. If you hate, get on your job. Motivation. It's thinking only gonna inspire. Motivation. All you hating is fuel to my fire. Motivation. Chicken plotting on the crown, so dress. Motivation. Hey, but I ain't slowing down, I ain't stop. Motivation. Yeah, don't stop my show. Motivation. You ain't know I don't stop, I grow. Motivation. Sucker can't make me suffer. Just make me stronger and make me tough. Motivation.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Underdog Playbook. We're thrilled to have a true legend returning in the studio today, head coach Nick Saban. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Kay and Taylor. Always a pleasure to talk football.
Coach, we've been discussing Arizona State's redshirt freshman quarterback, Trey Camby, and his roller coaster season. He's shown potential, but struggles with consistency and decision-making. From your experience, what are some key areas he needs to focus on to improve?
Great question, Taylor. First and foremost, decision-making under pressure is critical. He needs to develop the ability to read defenses quickly and understand when to take risks and when to play it safe. That awareness comes with experience, but he should also focus on film study. Knowing what to expect can dramatically improve his game.
That makes a lot of sense. With those 7 turnovers in the last game, what do you think is the psychological impact of those mistakes on a young quarterback?
It can be tough. A young player might dwell on those mistakes, which can affect their confidence. It's essential for him to have a strong support system, coaches, teammates who can help him process those failures. He needs to learn to compartmentalize, focus on the next play, and not let one mistake snowball into another.
And how important is it for the coaching staff to instill a growth mindset in someone like Trey?
Very important. They need to emphasize that every game is a learning opportunity. Embracing challenges and setbacks as part of the growth process is crucial. That mindset can turn a tough season into a foundation for future success.
Coach, thank you so much for your insights. It's clear that developing a quarterback isn't just about talent. It's about mental fortitude, too.
Absolutely. Excited to see how Trey evolves.
Thanks for joining us, Coach. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us for more analysis and updates.
Until next season, keep rooting for the Underdogs.
Welcome back, folks. It's the Underdog Playbook, and we are officially kicking off Season 3. I'm Ryan, and joining me as always is my co-host Brent. Brent, how you doing, man?
I'm feeling good, Ryan. New season, new energy, and we've got a lot of exciting things to talk about this year. But before we dive into today's topic, we just want to thank everyone who's been with us through the first 2 seasons. The feedback, the support, it's been amazing. So we're back with a vengeance, and we've got some fire content lined up for you today.
Definitely, man. Season 3 is going to be bigger and better. And to kick things off, we're diving right into one of the most intriguing storylines in college football, Arizona State's quarterback situation. Now, if you've been following the Sun Devils this offseason, you know there's been a ton of buzz surrounding redshirt sophomore quarterback Trey Camby,
Oh, absolutely. Trey Camby's journey has been anything but predictable. I mean, let's recap real quick. Trey came in as a freshman, showed flashes of brilliance, but also had some rough moments. I think it's safe to say his freshman year was a roller coaster ride. One minute he looked like the next big thing, and the next he was making mistakes that had fans scratching their heads.
Yeah, the inconsistency was definitely there, and that led to a rocky start for him last season. But that's also the nature of a redshirt freshman, right? The highs and lows. Still, when you're under the spotlight at a program like Arizona State, the pressure is real, and the stakes are high. So heading into this season, Trey found himself in a very interesting position.
For sure. Trey entered camp this year in what was basically an open competition for the backup spot. You had Sam Levitt, the former starter, looking to hold on to his job, and a host of younger quarterbacks breathing down his neck. But what happened in that season opener against Bowling Green was kind of the turning point.
Yeah, Arizona State wins the game, 24-21, but it wasn't exactly a pretty win. They almost blew a lead in the second half. There were some major growing pains across the board. But despite that, head coach Kenny Dillingham came out and announced that Trey Camby was going to compete for the starting role heading into the next week's game against Texas A&M.
Right. Now, the big question, could Trey handle the pressure, especially after last season's ups and downs? Was he ready to step into that starting role, or would the inconsistency from his freshman year come back to bite him?
I think we both agree on this one, Brent. Trey Camby was ready. I mean, when the announcement was made, it kind of felt like it was his job to lose at that point. And what did he do? He comes out in that competition, and let's just say the gap between him and Sam Levitt was not even close.
Oh, absolutely. Trey Camby won that starting job in a landslide. It wasn't even a competition. The difference in poise, skill, and execution, he was the clear choice. And now we're looking at a guy who went from backup quarterback to the starter just like that. He's got the job, and it's his to run with. But the real question is, where does he go from here?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, if Trey can stay consistent, show growth in his decision-making, and find a rhythm in that offense, then there's no reason he can't be the guy for Arizona State this year. But we both know the stakes are high. His freshman year showed the potential, but also the flaws.
Exactly, and let's not forget, Trey's in a very competitive environment now. Arizona State has some tough games ahead. They'll be facing some elite defenses, and we know that quarterback play is the key to surviving in the Big 12. If Trey can keep his mistakes in check and build on those flashes of brilliance, Arizona State could really make some noise this season. But if he regresses or fails to find that consistency, we might see a quick hook from Dillingham.
Right. And there's the wild card, too. If things don't work out for Trey, we know Arizona State's got other options in the quarterback room. Sam Levitt is still there, and there's also some younger talent waiting in the wings. But I think the biggest thing for Trey right now is confidence. He has to prove to himself and to his coaches that he's not just the guy who's capable of flashing talent, but the guy who can lead the team week in and week out.
No doubt, the pressure is definitely on Trey to deliver. He's got the tools and the talent is unquestioned. But now it's all about consistency. He's got to be the guy who can handle adversity and continue to improve. Look, when you're in a position like his, so much promise, but also so much to prove, the first few weeks of the season are absolutely critical. They're going to shape his entire year, maybe even his future in college football.
And that brings us to our predictions. I think we both see Trey Camby as a big potential breakout candidate for the season, but I'm curious, Brent, where do you think he'll end up by the end of the year?
Trey's got the tools to be successful. If he can avoid the turnovers, continue to improve in the pocket, and take care of business in the games that matter, I think he could be a top-tier QB in the Big 12 by season's end. I'm saying he finishes the season as the starter, and Arizona State is playing in a bowl game, a solid season for him. Nothing flashy, but definitely enough to earn his stripes and give ASU some hope for the future. What about you, Ryan?
I'm with you, man. I think Trey shows enough growth this year to finish strong as the starter. He'll have his ups and downs, but by the end of the season, I see him being more confident, more in control, and leading Arizona State to a bowl game as well. Not necessarily a standout Heisman-type season, but a real foundation for the future. And who knows, if he takes the right steps, he could be looking at a bigger future down the road.
That's a solid call. We'll see how things play out. The QB situation is always one of the most exciting and unpredictable parts of any season, so this will be a storyline we're following closely.
Absolutely. It's going to be an exciting year for Trey Camby and for Arizona State fans. We'll see how it shakes out, but I think there's a lot of upside here.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Underdog Playbook. We'll be back next week to dive into more college football storylines, player predictions, and, of course, all the drama that comes with a new season. Ryan, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Just want to remind our listeners to keep following us on social media, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. It's going to be a wild season, and we're here for it. See you all next week.
Take care, everyone. Enjoy the games this weekend. Don't stop rooting for the underdogs.
Yo, I'm like the young one stepping fresh on the turf. They checking him to see.
Kyle Field, home to the Texas A&M Aggies, the Corps Cadets, the world-famous 12th man, Lady Reveille, and early indications, a whole throng of Aggies ready to make some noise. We have a ranked versus unranked battle coming up here, and you know how chaos can ensue if they start smelling an upset. As we see a squad from the Big 12, the Arizona State Sun Devils, taking on the third-ranked team in the land, the Texas A&M Aggies. For EA Sports College Football, Reese Davis with you alongside David Pollack and Jesse Palmer. And guys, can't wait to get this one started. Down at the 37. This crowd, full throat, splitting the eardrums and letting them know it's going to be a long day.
What's up, football fans? Welcome to the Underdog Playbook, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories, the players, and the moments that fly under the radar in the world of college football. I'm Ryan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Brent. Brent, my man, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ryan. It's week 2, and let me tell you, this college football season is already off to a wild start. From upsets to breakout performances, we've got a lot to talk about today. But of course, we have to start with one of the most exciting storylines of the season, Arizona State's quarterback, Trey Camby. If you're just tuning in, folks, this kid has been a revelation over the first 3 games of the season, and today we're diving into that huge win against Texas A&M. Ryan, I gotta ask, did you see that coming?
You know, Brent, I don't think anyone saw it coming. Arizona State walking into Kyle Field, which, let's be honest, ESPN ranks as the #1 toughest stadium to play in, and pulling off an upset against Texas A&M? That's a huge statement. And the man who made it happen? Trey Camby, the redshirt sophomore quarterback who's still trying to solidify himself as the QB1. And he did exactly that in that game. Trey had 2 total touchdowns, just under 300 all-purpose yards, and, this is the big one, he didn't turn the ball over once.
That's right, Ryan. Trey Camby went into one of the most hostile environments in all of college football and played with the poise of a seasoned veteran. He didn't flinch in the face of adversity. He didn't let the noise of 100,000 screaming fans get to him. Instead, he led Arizona State to a 24-21 win, and it was clear, this kid's for real. Now the stats were impressive, but it was how he managed the game that really stood out to me. This was his first real test as QB1, and he passed it with flying colors.
Absolutely. Trey said after the game that it was the toughest away game I've ever played in, and honestly, I don't think anyone can argue with him. The environment was brutal. Texas A&M is a program known for creating pressure for opposing teams, and to step into that arena and not make a single turnover, that's huge for a guy who's still figuring out his role as the starter.
No doubt. And let's talk about his decision-making because that's what really stands out to me. There were some moments in the game where Texas A&M had a chance to take control, but Trey just didn't force anything. He stayed patient in the pocket, kept his eyes downfield, and when the opportunity was there, he took it. He didn't try to do too much. That's a sign of a guy who's maturing and starting to get comfortable in his role.
That's the key right there. Patience. Trey's redshirt freshman year was a bit of a roller coaster. He showed flashes of brilliance, but he also had some tough moments with turnovers and bad decisions. But in this game, he didn't make those same mistakes. Even when the pressure was on, he kept his cool. And let's not forget, he wasn't just managing the game, he was driving the offense. 2 total touchdowns and just under 300 all-purpose yards? That's no small feat. And when you're talking about a game like this, against an SEC opponent with a defense like Texas A&M's, it's not just about putting up good stats. Trey had to be smart with the football, especially when you're on the road and you don't want to give the other team any extra opportunities. You look at the numbers, no turnovers, and you can see the growth. He's not the same guy we saw last year when he was more of a boom or bust player.
You hit the nail on the head. It's not just the stats, it's the decision-making, the mental game, the maturity. The growth that Trey showed in this game was just as impressive as the big numbers he put up. I mean, we've seen a lot of talented quarterbacks who can make big plays but can't handle the mental side of things when it matters. Trey didn't get rattled in that environment. He stepped up when it counted, and that's what a true QB1 does.
Totally. And the best part? This isn't just a one-off performance. Trey's building something here. If you look at how he handled the game, it feels like he's settling into the role. He's not trying to do too much. He's letting the game come to him, and he's trusting his teammates around him. The leadership is evident. When your quarterback can manage a game like this without turning the ball over, and he leads the offense with confidence, especially in one of the toughest environments in college football, that's a game changer for your program.
And let's not forget, Trey was in a competition for the backup role heading into camp this season. For him to win the starting job and then deliver in such a big way, that's got to give Arizona State fans a ton of confidence moving forward. You mentioned growth, Ryan, and that's really what this whole game represents for Trey. It wasn't just a good performance. It was a sign that Trey Camby is starting to hit his stride as the leader of this offense.
Right, and you know how it is, Brent. Quarterback is the most scrutinized position on the field. Every mistake, every turnover, it's magnified. So for Trey to go into Kyle Field and not make a single turnover, especially after the ups and downs of last season, he's proving he can handle the pressure. But here's the thing. This is only the beginning. He's still got a lot to prove. This performance shows the potential, but now it's about consistency.
For sure. And consistency is going to be key. Can Trey keep this level of play up throughout the season? Because we both know that the Big 12 isn't going to give him any breaks. Arizona State has a tough schedule ahead, and teams are going to be gunning for him. But if he can maintain this confidence, if he continues to make smart decisions like he did in that Texas A&M game, Arizona State could be in for a special season.
Exactly. One game doesn't make a career, but this was a huge step in the right direction for Trey Camby. Arizona State fans should be excited, but as you said, the real test comes as the season moves forward. Can Trey keep his foot on the gas and avoid the mistakes that can derail a season? Time will tell, but this performance against Texas A&M definitely has me excited for what's to come.
Absolutely. This was a statement win for Trey, and honestly, it's a statement win for Arizona State as a program. They were counted out, but now they've got a QB1 who's showing he can lead them through the toughest situations. If Trey keeps playing like this, Arizona State could be a dark horse in the Big 12 this season.
Well said, Brent. All right, folks, that wraps up our recap of Arizona State's monumental win over Texas A&M. Trey Camby showed out, and it's clear that the Sun Devils have something special brewing at quarterback. Stay tuned, because up next, we'll dive into Trey's second big performance of the season against Hawaii, where the Sun Devils' offense exploded. You won't want to miss it.
Yo. Let's do it. Feet after feet, fall after fall. When do I start to feel like I'm doing this for y'all? I rap and delete, smoke and repeat. Something's hiding in me and I can't see. I wonder what can it be? Is it the process of becoming it all? Then I think, when's the fall? Was I ever meant to ball? I don't know. Hopefully one day I understand it all. I'm just asking God, that's all. I could get on here and talk like I dropped 30 on y'all. cause I did, but I gotta do it again. Repeat what he said, I gotta do it again. I'm just speaking, I'm just dreaming. I'm trying to get it from seeing to being. Controller in my hand, got you peeping how I'm scheming. Drawing up plays, call me coach, hardball. I run the play too like Michael Carter Williams, y'all. Cross the goal line with the ball. 3-point shot, go in the rim as a buzzer ring for the final call. All in all, I just want a ball.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Underdog Playbook. We've been diving into Trey Camby's impressive start to the season, and if you've been listening, you know the kid's been lighting it up. So let's pick up where we left off. After that monster performance in Texas A&M, Trey and the Arizona State offense came back home to take on Hawaii in a game that started off close, but turned into an absolute shootout. Arizona State wins it 52-38, and man, Trey Camby, he was dialed in. 6 passing touchdowns, 391 passing yards. But there's a little more to this story, right, Brent?
You're right, Ryan. While the numbers are jaw-dropping, 391 yards, 6 touchdowns, there's more to the story than just those eye-popping stats. Trey did throw 2 interceptions in the game, which could have easily turned the tide in Hawaii's favor, but despite the mistakes, he didn't let it affect his play. Instead, he and the offense exploded in the second half, and honestly, that's what stands out most to me, how Trey responded after the turnovers. He didn't flinch, he didn't lose confidence, and he kept attacking.
Exactly, Brent. And look, we've seen young quarterbacks get rattled by turnovers, especially when the game's still close. But Trey didn't let those picks derail his performance. That's a sign of growth, right? Last season, he had his moments where one mistake would lead to another, and suddenly the wheels were falling off. But in this game, he took the hits, shrugged them off, and just kept doing his thing.
Totally. And let's not forget, this wasn't just a one-off game against an overmatched opponent. Hawaii came into this game with a capable offense, and Arizona State had to keep up in a game where defense was kind of optional, but Trey showed he could put the team on his back and deliver. 6 touchdowns? That's not just a good game, that's an eye-opening performance.
Yeah, and what I love about Trey's game in this one was his poise. After the second interception, I was wondering if that might have been the moment where the game started to slip away, but he just kept his cool, and that's when you start seeing his confidence as the leader of this offense. He was spreading the ball around, making quick reads, and he kept finding mismatches in Hawaii's defense. That's what great quarterbacks do. They take what the defense gives them, and Trey did that perfectly.
That's such a great point, Ryan. He wasn't forcing anything. Yeah, he had 2 picks, but sometimes that's just football. But what Trey did after those moments, that's what separates a young quarterback from a guy who's finding his rhythm. He didn't try to do too much. He kept making the right throws, kept running the offense at a high level, and before we knew it, the Sun Devils were up by multiple scores.
Exactly. That's what impressed me most about Trey's approach, his ability to bounce back. When you're a quarterback still trying to find your consistency, a lot of guys would try to force the issue after a turnover, start getting desperate, and throw a couple more picks. But Trey didn't do that. He didn't try to be a hero. He let the offense flow, and it paid off. And let's not forget the playmakers around him. The wide receivers were making plays all day, and the running backs did their part to keep the defense honest. But still, this was Trey's show. 6 touchdowns. He was the engine that made everything go. And 391 yards? That's a statement for sure.
Absolutely, but let's talk about the interceptions for a second. Yeah, they didn't derail the game, but they're still a part of the story. If Trey's going to take that next step and really solidify himself as a top-tier quarterback in the Big 12, those are the kinds of mistakes he'll need to clean up. The talent is there. He's got the arm, the mobility, and the mental toughness. But the question remains, can he limit those mistakes as the season goes on? Because in tight games against tougher competition, those turnovers could be costly.
You're right, Brent. The mistakes are something to watch as the season progresses. But I think what's important here is how Trey handled those mistakes. In the past, maybe he would have let the pressure get to him. But now he's learning how to manage those moments. There's a difference between making a mistake and letting it affect your entire game. Trey's starting to show that he can recover from those moments and still play at a high level. That's huge.
Definitely. And this game, when you look at it as a whole, really shows that Trey is starting to develop into the kind of quarterback who can handle a shootout like this. Last year, the Sun Devils struggled to score at times, and the offense was inconsistent. But now, this offense is putting up points in a hurry, and Trey is the catalyst. He's learning how to put his foot on the gas when the offense is rolling and keep the defense on their heels.
Right. And this game was a perfect example of that. Trey was making quick decisions. He was distributing the ball efficiently, and he wasn't afraid to go deep when the opportunity presented itself. And the big thing here, Brent, is that this wasn't a fluke. This was the second game in a row where Trey showed up big. First, it was the upset against Texas A&M, and then he follows it up with a 391-yard, 6-touchdown performance. If Arizona State can get consistent play like this from their quarterback, they're going to be tough to beat in the Big 12.
Without a doubt. And here's the thing. For Trey Camby, this is only the beginning. He's still got room to grow. His ceiling is huge, and I think the more games he gets under his belt, the more he'll improve. The confidence is starting to build, and with that, the consistency is going to follow. Right now, it's clear Trey is figuring out how to be QB1, how to lead the offense, how to bounce back from mistakes, and how to elevate his game when it matters.
Exactly. And the exciting thing is that this offense has so much potential. If Trey can keep playing like this, the whole team gets elevated. The defense will be able to relax a little bit because they know the offense can put points on the board quickly. And if Arizona State can get that kind of balance, look out because they're going to be a tough team to handle.
The sky's the limit for Trey Camby, and it's going to be exciting to see.
Well said, Brent. All right, folks, that's going to wrap up our recap of Arizona State's big 52-38 win over Hawaii. Trey Camby continues to impress, and we're just getting started. Stick around, because up next, we're going to dive into what this offensive explosion means for the rest of the Big 12 and Arizona State's upcoming games. You won't want to miss it.
About to just go do it right now. Say fuck it. I try to write about my own life, only to find myself thinking I'm moving trife. Cause I don't think I'm moving right. All homies just up and leave. Didn't think I was gonna be shit, so they left the team. People in my comments calling my shit basic, saying
All right, folks, welcome back to the Underdog Playbook. We've already covered a couple of impressive performances from Arizona State's new starting quarterback, Trey Camby, but now we've got to talk about the big one. Trey and the Sun Devils were back at home for their third game of the season, this time facing off against Oklahoma State. And, wow, what a game. Arizona State went off for another offensive explosion, with Trey throwing for 371 yards and 7 total touchdowns in a dominant 48-21 win. I mean, this one was over by the end of the third quarter, Ryan. Trey was pulled early with the game already sealed up.
Yeah, Ryan, when I saw that score, I had to double-check the box score to make sure I wasn't looking at some sort of video game stats. 7 touchdowns, 371 yards. Trey Camby is on a different level right now. The Sun Devils are absolutely on fire, and I don't think anyone could have predicted this kind of performance out of the gates from him. But let's talk about what this win really means. For a guy who is still fighting for the starting job in training camp, to now be putting up numbers like that, it's insane. Arizona State fans have to be feeling pretty good right now.
Absolutely, Brent. Trey has gone from a question mark to, dare I say, one of the hottest quarterbacks in the Big 12 right now. This wasn't just another good performance. It was dominant. You can't overstate what this game means for Trey's development and for Arizona State as a whole. 7 total touchdowns, no turnovers, and getting pulled out of the game in the third quarter because the victory was already locked up? That's the kind of performance that cements your place as QB1. And honestly, after this game, the narrative surrounding Trey Camby being anything other than the guy is pretty much gone.
Right? If anyone was still questioning whether Trey had truly earned that starting spot, I think he's answered it emphatically in this game. But what stands out to me is just how comfortable he looks now. Early in the season, there were moments where you could see the growth. He was steady, he was making the right reads, And while there were some mistakes, he always bounced back. But now, it's like he's found a whole new level of confidence. He's commanding this offense. The poise, the leadership, the way he's spreading the ball around, it's impressive. This is the third game in a row where Trey's been playing at an elite level.
And Brent, it's not just about the stats. Although, let's be clear, those numbers are ridiculous. It's the way he's playing. Take the 7 touchdowns. Trey's hitting his receivers in stride, he's showing off his arm strength on deep throws, and he's making quick decisions in the red zone. You mentioned the confidence. What I see now is a quarterback who's trusting his playmaking ability, but also trusting the guys around him. His timing and decision-making are clicking. And remember, this is the same guy who was in a competition for the backup spot just a couple of months ago. Now look at him. He's practically making it look easy.
Exactly. I've got to admit, I was one of the guys who was kind of skeptical at first just because we saw some inconsistency last season. But it's hard to deny what we're seeing right now. Trey Camby is playing like a guy who's been in the starting role for years. I'm just sitting there thinking, this kid has it. The arm strength, the accuracy, the ability to go through his progressions, he's doing it all. And when you factor in the leadership and his ability to stay calm, even when the game's already getting out of hand, that's the mark of a guy who's ready to lead this team.
No doubt. And I think this game was also a huge statement for Arizona State as a whole. Oklahoma State's a solid team, always a tough opponent. But the Sun Devils didn't just beat them, they dominated. Trey didn't just win this game, he controlled it. He was in charge from the opening snap, and when you see a quarterback with that level of control, it changes the entire outlook for the team. The offense is clicking, the defense is feeding off that energy. Arizona State, as a program, looks like they could be a serious contender this season. And with Trey playing like this, it's hard to say there's a limit to how good they can be.
Right, Ryan. This win wasn't just about Trey, it was about the whole team. The offense, like you said, is firing on all cylinders right now, but Trey's ability to stay in rhythm and make every throw, every decision, while the defense forces turnovers and sets up scoring opportunities, it's really a team effort. Arizona State looks balanced. Trey looks like the leader, and the guys around him are stepping up in big ways. I mean, just look at the way the running backs are playing. They're making defenses respect the run game, which opens up even more for Trey in the passing attack. There's a real sense that this is a team on the rise, and Trey Camby is the guy leading them.
No doubt about it. And what I think is even more exciting for Arizona State fans is that Trey is still learning. He's only a redshirt sophomore, so there's still room for growth. If he can continue playing at this level, if he can continue to cut down on the mistakes and keep making the right decisions, this offense is going to be dangerous. And when you have a quarterback with that kind of playmaking ability, it opens up the whole playbook. The Sun Devils' offense is dangerous right now, but if Trey keeps improving, they could be unstoppable.
That's the thing, Ryan. When you're talking about a young quarterback with this kind of potential, who's already playing at this high of a level, it's scary to think what he could do with more experience. And as you said, it's not just about this season. If Trey keeps this up, it changes the whole trajectory of Arizona State's program. They could be back in the Big 12 title race sooner than anyone expected. We're talking about a team that could have a quarterback capable of winning them big games, and we're seeing that unfold right in front of us.
Exactly. And for all the questions about Trey coming into this season, I think we're seeing that he's answered every single one of them. There was the turnover issue last season. He's been incredibly clean this year. There was the consistency issue. He's been dialed in for 3 straight games now. And now, with his 48-21 win against Oklahoma State, Trey's status as QB1 is beyond secure. He's the guy.
Without a doubt. So, what does this mean for Arizona State moving forward? Well, first of all, it means that they've got a quarterback who's already playing at an elite level, and with the pieces around him on both sides of the ball, Arizona State could be in for a huge season. Trey Camby looks like he's ready to lead the Sun Devils to new heights. And if I'm an Arizona State fan, I'm feeling pretty good about the direction this program is headed.
Absolutely. Trey Camby has solidified himself as Arizona State's QB1, and right now, it feels like the sky's the limit for him and the Sun Devils. Folks, if you're not already watching Arizona State football, you better start tuning in. This team is for real, And with Trey at the helm, they might just be on the verge of something special.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Ryan. That's going to do it for today's show, folks. We've recapped 3 incredible games from Trey Camby, and I think it's safe to say that he's one of the most exciting young quarterbacks in the country right now. Stay tuned because we've got more college football action coming your way, and you won't want to miss it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Underdog Playbook. We'll catch you next time, same place. Until then, enjoy the games, and remember, don't stop rooting for the underdogs. Welcome to the Underdog Playbook, where we bring you the heart, the hustle, and the unpredictability of college football through the eyes of the underdogs. I'm Ryan, and with me is the man who believes every college football season has its surprises, Brent.
What's up, Ryan? The underdog story is the only one that matters. We're not here for the boring, predictable stuff. We're here to dive into the chaos and the excitement of college football. And speaking of chaos, it's been a wild few weeks.
Couldn't agree more. It's been a roller coaster, man. From undefeated teams stumbling to Cinderella stories rising from the ashes. You know, it's what makes this game so much fun. I'm all in for the stories behind the upsets, the comebacks, and yeah, the breakout players. But speaking of breakout players,
we're starting with one of the most explosive and, shall we say, complicated quarterbacks in the country right now, Trey Camby from Arizona State. The guy can light it up, but man, he's got his quirks. But before we dive into all that, let's catch our listeners up on what's happened over the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, we're already halfway through the season, and there's still so much unpredictability. From top-ranked teams getting tested to some of those underdog stories we've been waiting for. Let's break it down.
All right, so let's rewind a little bit. Kansas State at Arizona State in Tempe, huge matchup. ASU coming into this game undefeated at 4-0, led by none other than the redshirt sophomore quarterback, Trey Camby. People had questions about him coming into the season, but man, if you were in that stadium, you saw what he's capable of. He delivered another one of those stat-stuffing performances that makes you say, this guy is on another level. Trey put up a ridiculous 427 passing yards, an impressive 58% completion rate, and 4 touchdowns. Not to mention his passer rating, a cool 156.3. Sounds great, right?
Yeah, that's a huge game. Trey's been on fire, no question. I mean, 427 yards and 4 touchdowns? You don't see that every day. He's got to be one of the best young quarterbacks in the country, Brent.
Oh, he's definitely one of the most talented guys out there. He's got an arm that can make every throw. But you know me, Ryan, I'm not ready to crown him just yet. Sure, he's got the numbers, but this is where I'm going to put on my devil's advocate hat. Trey Camby had those big stats, no doubt, but guess what else? He turned the ball over again, and it wasn't just a fluke interception. This guy has a weird knack for putting the ball in harm's way in critical moments. It's almost like he can't help himself.
Here we go. I knew you were going to bring that up. It's like a broken record with you, Brent. I get it, he turned it over. It wasn't pretty. But look, Trey is the kind of quarterback who takes risks. He's got that gunslinger mentality, and sometimes that leads to mistakes. But he's learning. He's improving, and those moments don't define him.
Improving? Sure, but the pattern is hard to ignore at this point. It's the same story every week, Ryan. He'll throw for over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, but then, boom, an interception at the worst possible time. I mean, we saw it last year, too. This guy can light up the scoreboard, but when it's time for that one clutch drive, you almost have to hold your breath.
Look, I'm not saying he's perfect, but he's got something that you can't teach. Confidence. You watch him out there, and you can tell this is a guy who believes he's going to make the play when it counts. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's the risk you take with a guy like Camby. And you know what? I think he's got what it takes to figure it out. We saw flashes of that in his performance against Kansas State. He'll get better at protecting the ball as the season goes on, trust me.
Okay, I'll give you that. He's got a lot of potential, but he's still got a lot to prove. And that turnover issue, it's not something you can ignore, especially when you're in the middle of a tight race in the Big 12. But speaking of that, Ryan, we're about to get another chance to see Trey in action, and this time, it's against Colorado.
And that's going to be a big one. We'll dive into it after the break, but I'm telling you, I'm excited to see how Trey handles this next test. Against a team like Colorado, if he cleans up those mistakes, this is his moment to really prove he's the guy for big games.
Big test coming up, no doubt. But before we get into that, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with more on the Underdog Playbook.
Find your dreams come true. And I wonder if you know what it means, what it means. And I wonder if you know what it means, what it means. And I wonder if you know what it means to find your dreams. And I wonder.
Passion is a match, but my friendship isn't something you consider a match. I beat myself up too much when I let you down, and I can't seem to shake the frown. I think I have to be perfect, cause if not, I think you regret what you kept. None of it's right, but I feel like this my plight, and I know it can get mixed. But like my skin, I take shit light. So say what you want, I won't bite. I probably won't even fight, cause your words got some truth to them, right? Doesn't mean you're right, I think my shit pretty tight. I also think I'm never gonna get shit right. You can think what you want, just don't think what you say is gonna make everything alright. Alright?
Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook, folks. We're diving right into more college football action. I'm Ryan here with Brent, and after that break, we're back with some big matchups to analyze. Now, Brent, we've seen some big moments from Trey Camby this season, but I'm starting to wonder if you might have had a point in the last segment. The turnovers are starting to feel like a trend. Let's break down Colorado's trip to Arizona State, where ASU came out with a big 41-31 win.
Ah, so the tide's turning, huh? You're starting to see what I've been saying all along. Look, I get it. He's got all the talent in the world, but when it comes down to it, this kid's got to clean up his mistakes. But you know what, Ryan? I don't want to get all I told you so on you just yet. Let's get into this game.
Okay, fair enough. I'm here for the breakdown. Colorado went into Tempe, and we all thought this was going to be one of those coin toss games. Two high-powered offenses, both with a lot to prove. But Arizona State came out on top with a 41-31 victory. Trey Camby once again put up some impressive numbers, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But, well, you know, the turnovers.
You had to go there. I knew it was coming. Trey's stat line is solid. 3 touchdowns and 300 yards against a good Colorado defense isn't nothing. But yeah, he threw 2 picks in this game. Both of them came at really inopportune times, Ryan. You can't keep doing that if you want to make a run in the Big 12, let alone have any chance in the playoffs.
And that's the thing, Brent. The numbers, like you said, are great. I mean, 3 touchdowns and 300 yards is hard to argue with, but when you add in those turnovers, you've got to wonder, is Trey actually getting worse in terms of managing the game? He's got all the skills, but it's like he just can't stop himself from making that one big mistake. If you want to go further in the season, those turnovers need to be addressed. But, I don't know, I'm torn.
See, that's the problem. You're letting his flashy numbers fool you again. I'll give him credit, he's a gamer, he's got that it factor, but if he can't play smart when it matters most, he's never going to take ASU to the level they want to reach. Yeah, they beat Colorado, but those turnovers, those were the kinds of mistakes that could have swung the game the other way. If the Buffs capitalize on just one of those, this game could have gone south fast.
Yeah, you're right. But here's the thing. I'm trying to remind myself that a win is a win. Sure, you'd love to see a more mistake-free game from Camby, but at the end of the day, ASU got the W. They held on, and in the Big 12, sometimes you just have to grind out those wins. If they can correct those mistakes during the week, it's all part of the process, right? You work through the kinks, make the adjustments, and the next time, you get a cleaner performance.
Fair point, Ryan. A win is a win, and when it comes to college football, the most important thing is to keep stacking those wins. And we can't forget Trey Camby is still young, and he's still learning. That's why it's important for him to have these tests early in the season. If ASU can get through the next few weeks with a couple of wins, maybe that confidence will push him to cut out those mistakes.
Exactly. And if he does that, you start to see the evolution. That's what makes the next matchup against Baylor even more intriguing, right? SU needs to carry that momentum into a tough Big 12 matchup. And Trey will have to prove that he can play smart when it matters.
That's right. Baylor is a completely different beast, and this game's going to be a huge test for both teams. ASU can't afford to give up any easy turnovers, not with a team like Baylor coming into town. We'll preview that game in just a moment, but before we get there, let's take a quick break.
All right, perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Gon' grab that fifth, grab that eighth, grab what you need. Blow that dope, don't get too hot. From the third coast to the west coast, come take this ride. Let me tell her how Jack turned sky over one lost trip to the sky. Let me tell the tale, cause you told the tale when you said I can make it this high. Who knew? God damn it, who knew? The grass ain't green on the other side, it's just blue. You can really identify when you look in the eyes who ready to ride, that's true. When they look in my eyes, they see that roll. How Scotty ain't tied that juice. Had my back against that wall. Every summer felt so cold, my daddy ain't coming home till fall. That's why my pimp game so moist. Had that do-rag and all. Had a 20-year-old bitch in high school. Wasn't no telling what Trappy might do. On the south side of the HOU. Hold up, let's take it back to that room. No car, but still had dropped. Just 100 niggas standing outside. Life's a beach with a lot of sand on the lot. I'ma ride for all my niggas, if you ever here by my side. It was just 8 niggas in a 2-bedroom, no leg room. That was last June, yeah, for real. Yeah, for real. Fuck what they talk about, if they ain't talking about me, nigga, let it be known, yeah, is that real? Yeah, for real. For real. Fuck what they talking about, if they ain't talking about, we them niggas everybody talking about, is that real? Yeah, for real. Bag always chillin', bag always drinking, smoking, homie bought out the liquor. Bag always getting high, bag always chillin', bag always smoking, drinking, bag always getting high. Bag always chillin', bag always drinking, smoking, homie bought out the liquor. Bag always getting high, bag always chillin', bag always smoking, drinking, bag always getting high. One day you find your purpose. Now my show's packed out like churches. Fans never missing not a word on the verses. Never sit around, just worked it. It was worth it. That's for certain. I deserve it. Lord knows we don't get tired.
All right, folks, we're back with more of your favorite college football podcast, the Underdog Playbook. It's Ryan here, and as always, I've got Brent with me. Now, before the break, we've already seen Arizona State take down Colorado in a tight game. But this one, Brent, this one was something else. Arizona State hosting Baylor, a Big 12 showdown that had fans biting their nails till the final whistle. ASU extended their undefeated streak with a 56-44 win. But man, it was another one of those games where the numbers don't tell the whole story, right?
Yeah, Ryan, this game was a roller coaster. And let me tell you, Arizona State may have gotten the win, but there were definitely some questions that need answering. Trey Camby put up ridiculous numbers again, 476 yards, 4 touchdowns, but also 3 interceptions and a lost fumble. That's the story of the game right there. Explosive offense mixed with too many mistakes. I mean, you can't ignore those turnovers.
Yeah, it's almost like every time we talk about this kid, it's a mix of the wow moments and the what are you doing moments. I mean, how do you view this in the most honest way possible, Brent?
Look, Ryan, I'm going to be straight with you. ASU has put up 159 total points in the last 3 games. That's an insane number. On paper, it looks like the offense is unstoppable, and I'm sure everyone is praising the numbers. But here's the catch. Most of those points have come in desperate situations. ASU has been in these tight, high-pressure moments where they're forced to score quickly because they've either fallen behind or need to get back on track after a turnover, and it all comes down to Trey Camby. The guy's talented, no doubt, but he's also making huge mistakes that are costing his team. That lost fumble against Baylor, the 3 interceptions, those aren't just numbers on a stat sheet, they're momentum killers. And when you've got a defense that's already under fire, putting the offense in a hole like that, it forces you to change your game plan, change your tempo, and now you're scrambling for points instead of controlling the game.
I get where you're coming from. It's hard to ignore the pattern of mistakes. But let's look at the bigger picture here. Trey's turnovers aside, his ability to keep fighting and still put up those monster stats is a big reason why ASU is 5-0 right now. Sure, those turnovers are a problem, but at the end of the day, this is a team that's winning, and that's got to count for something. I mean, you can't keep chalking it up to luck, right? He's keeping his team alive when it matters.
I'm not saying Trey's not talented. The guy's got a cannon for an arm, and he's making throws that very few quarterbacks can even dream of. But, Ryan, you've got to look at the context. Arizona State has been playing from behind too often, and those 159 points, a lot of them came after they were forced to play catch-up. It's great that he can sling it, but if you're constantly playing from behind, you're changing the script of the game. You can't just keep digging yourself into a hole and expect to bail out with big throws every time. So the question becomes, how long can ASU keep this up? How long can Trey keep making these mistakes and still win games?
That's a fair question, Brent. But here's the flip side. Trey's play, for all the turnovers, is still keeping ASU undefeated. You've got to give him credit for leading the team through adversity. Even when things are spiraling, like they were in this Baylor game, he keeps them in it. Sure, there's risk involved, but sometimes you have to trust the risk taker. If Trey can clean up those turnovers, we're talking about a quarterback who could carry his team deep into conference play, maybe even the playoffs. But I know, that's a big if.
It's an enormous if, Ryan. But I get it. He's an exciting player. But this isn't a video game. You can't just keep putting up EA Sports college football numbers and expect everything to work out. ASU's going to face tougher defenses, and they'll face tougher environments. Right now, their defense isn't exactly a brick wall. They're giving up points. So Trey's mistakes are putting more pressure on that side of the ball. You can't just expect to outscore everyone.
You're right. That pressure is real. But as long as they're winning, the focus can be on improving the mistakes rather than trying to fix a broken formula. If Trey can clean it up and the team keeps the momentum going, then those turnovers become a lesson instead of a liability.
All right, I'll give you that. But here's the thing, Ryan. How long can they keep getting away with this? You look at their next few matchups and it's going to get real tight. Their undefeated record is on the line in every game from here on out. It's not just about fixing mistakes in practice. At some point, the turnovers are going to come back to bite them.
Well, no doubt about that. But let's not lose sight of one thing. Arizona State is 5-0, and Trey Camby has them undefeated. If that continues, the mistakes might get overlooked for a little longer. For now, ASU just needs to keep winning and keep working on those turnovers during the week.
Exactly. They need to fix those mistakes fast, or else that undefeated record is going to get a whole lot harder to hold on to.
No doubt. And with conference play heating up, every win is going to feel that much harder to come by. But for now, ASU sits at the top of the Big 12, undefeated, and their offense is running on all cylinders, with a few bumps in the road.
Before we wrap up, folks, let's take a quick look ahead. ASU's next game is going to be critical, and with the Big 12 still wide open, this is going to be another test for Trey Camby and the Sun Devils. Can they keep their undefeated streak alive, or will the turnovers finally catch up to them?
I can't wait to see how that one unfolds. But if you're Arizona State, you can't afford another mistake-filled game like the one we saw against Baylor. It's time for Trey to take that next step. Well, folks, that wraps it up for this week's episode of the Underdog Playbook. As always, we're here to break down the games, the players, and the stories you won't hear on the mainstream broadcasts. Take care, everyone. Until then, keep rooting for the underdog.
Still 2050, nigga. Ain't going nowhere. That was hard. Yeah. Rolling up a seal, blowing up a steel, going hard. I'm on my job like I ain't sitting on a meal. Now filet mignon come with every meal. I swear to God that I'm so high, feel like I'm going up a hill. Car marijuana coated, paid $250,000 for it. Still hop in that thing, ride like a stolen. I'm talking vacation island resorting. I made 11 million, nigga, without an endorsements. Took the niggas I was out on the porch with to Central Pay to race them in Audis and Porsches, Bentleys and Rolls, plenty of smoke, thousands for weed, 50 for clothes. I remember I couldn't get shit back then when I was broke. Now that I'm rich, everything's for the low. So I could give a fuck about what they saying, cause they wasn't with me way back in the day when the nigga was just
Welcome in, football fans, to another episode of the Underdog Playbook. I'm Ryan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Brent. Today, we're diving into some exciting Big 12 action from Arizona State University, as the Sun Devils continue to make their mark on the conference. We've got two games on the docket, Texas Tech and the University of Central Florida. It's been a wild ride so far, and we're going to break it all down, starting with that showdown against Texas Tech. Brent, how's it going, my friend?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Excited to get into this one. Arizona State's been making some noise, and as always, there's plenty to talk about when it comes to this team. They've got a lot of potential, but also some big questions we need answers to. So yeah, let's get into it.
Absolutely. So let's set the stage here. Arizona State came into this Texas Tech game riding high off 3 straight wins. We talked about those last week, but there was one big question lingering. Will quarterback Trey Camby's turnover problem be the thing that ultimately holds them back? Well, this game against Texas Tech, as we predicted, was going to be the real test. And spoiler alert, it didn't go perfectly. Trey had 3 turnovers, 1 lost fumble early in the game and then 2 interceptions later on. But the Sun Devils still managed to pull off the win, 26-18. So Brent, I gotta ask, how are we feeling about this performance?
Well, Ryan, I think you nailed it. Going into this game, we knew this was going to be a litmus test. Trey had been riding the wave of those 3 wins, but the question was always, could he protect the ball when the pressure was on? And while the turnovers are obviously a concern, let's not overlook the fact that Arizona State still found a way to get the win. Trey threw for 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, and yes, those 3 turnovers. But he did enough to secure the W. The Sun Devils won. That's the bottom line.
Exactly. The fact that Arizona State came out on top despite those turnovers is something to celebrate. I mean, it's not ideal, but the Sun Devils were still able to grind out a win. Trey's completion percentage was a rough 41.4%, which is definitely below average, but they still got the job done. There's something to be said about finding ways to win games even when things aren't perfect.
Right, and I think that's a key point. Winning is the most important thing right now. I mean, we talked about this last week. If they're still winning, why mess with the formula? Even with the turnovers, Trey's been leading them to victories, and that's what matters in the end. But Ryan, I'll stand by what I said last week too. Trey has to get smarter with his decision-making. He's young, so he's got time to clean up these mistakes, but if this becomes a pattern, if he has one of those disaster performances that cost them a game, it could derail everything. You can only rely on the defense and the rest of the team for so long.
Right? And it's good that he's young, because that means there's time to correct these mistakes before they become a real liability. But as you said, Brent, one really bad game where those turnovers lead to a loss, and this whole thing could get derailed. I think the Sun Devils have the talent to compete, but they need consistency from their quarterback, and Trey has to be more disciplined, especially when it comes to protecting the ball. If he can do that, Arizona State could be a dangerous team in the Big 12. But if he can't, well, things might start to spiral.
Yeah, it's that simple. There's room for growth, but there's also urgency. Every win counts. especially when you're trying to make a name for yourself in the Big 12. And look, I'm not saying Trey can't fix this. It's not like he's throwing 4 or 5 turnovers a game, but he's got to find a balance between being aggressive and being smart. He's got the tools, now it's just about managing them correctly.
For sure. All right, let's take a quick break and pay some bills. When we come back, we'll dive into Arizona State's next game against the University of Central Florida. Can the Sun Devils keep this momentum going? Stay tuned.
Hey, I got $1 in the dream. That's all a nigga got, so it was about that green, and I'm all up in the spot. Hey, yeah, the mental state of a young black genius conflicted. The fast life I done seen on the screen is addictive. Money and clothes I done dreamed about, and all the hoes that I think about. They tell me, am I wrong for visualizing material shit I never had? Waving gaps instead of flags, the American dream. Why do we cling to the villains? Knowing they killing my niggas high enough to swing from the ceiling. Ink from the pen spilling on my notebook. Filled with dreams, this is my hope book. Still the screams from little girls shot and killed fill my head on the daily. At times I question God, can you blame me? They can't tame me. My voice screeched through the streets, I'm a beast on them. Oh no, he will not fold, you will not see a crease on him. He will not slip or lose his grip, they got them cleats on him. But never will he run unless you call police on him. 2 times, 3 times, sometimes I scrap, sometimes I'm throwing up the peace sign. It's 2 sides to a nigga though. I said it's 2 sides to a nigga, yo. Hey, look, sometimes I'm feeling high, then I'm feeling low. Lord, will I die, will I survive? Let a nigga know. You say you know me, but what side did you get to know? It's 2 sides to a nigga, yo. Some pussy niggas put out on me and my mans. Wasn't for the pistol, we drop him right where he stands. But still, we never ran. Foolish pride made us stand right there. Not understanding we could lose our life there. And then it hit us, thinking about the close calls from long distance. As little niggas in the Ville, we was tripping. Typing nosy ass niggas to watch the fight until it's over. They ran when the gats came out. I moved closer. Foolish, what was I thinking? Wasn't trying to be coolest, just the thrill of the danger. Get so filled up with anger when it's...
Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook, folks. We're picking up where we left off, breaking down Arizona State's second Big 12 game this week against the University of Central Florida. And Brent, this was another game that had a little bit of everything. Grinded out football, some big plays, and of course, more of the same from quarterback Trey Camby. Arizona State pulled off a 48-43 win on the road at UCF, and I think it's safe to say the Sun Devils are really leaning into their strengths right now. Let's break this one down.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. Another tough one for Arizona State, but they get the job done again. This time it was their run game that really led the way, but I gotta say, Trey Camby still had another solid performance through the air. The numbers look good. 228 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and a solid 57% completion rate. The passer rating was also a respectable 146.6. And you know, Ryan, there's a lot to like there.
Definitely. That's another solid performance from Trey. He's continuing to show improvement in terms of efficiency, and his touchdown-to-interception ratio is holding steady. But, Brent, I gotta say, it's becoming a bit of a theme here. You know what I'm about to say.
And 2 interceptions.
Yes, Brent. And 2 interceptions. Now here's the thing. I feel like this show is starting to sound like the same record every week. Trey's putting up solid numbers. He's getting the ball into the end zone. But then we're still talking about those turnovers week after week. It's like a cycle that keeps repeating itself, and Arizona State's winning these games. But how long can they keep doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record either, but Trey's got to clean that up. The turnovers are getting in the way of what could be even bigger performances. I don't think anyone would be surprised if Trey had a game where he cleaned up the turnovers and had a monster game. But right now, it's the same story. Turnovers, but the Sun Devils find a way to win. And this time, they really leaned on that run game, which was huge in this matchup against UCF.
Exactly. That's what stood out in this one. Arizona State ran the ball for 225 yards in this game. That is what really helped them get over the finish line. The balance between a solid passing game and a strong run game was the key to this win. It took the pressure off Trey, and honestly, it made a difference when things started getting tight in the fourth quarter. They were able to chew up clock and keep the UCF offense off the field when they needed to.
That's exactly right. And I think we're seeing a shift here. Arizona State is understanding what they need to do to win. They don't need to be a pass-happy team every single week if they've got a solid ground game to fall back on. The offensive line's been great, and the running backs are really doing a lot of damage, creating balance. And look, that's going to win you games, especially when you're on the road in a hostile environment like UCF. But can they keep it up? That's the question.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? As great as the running game is right now, and as much as the defense stepped up when it needed to, Arizona State can't afford to keep winning games with a 2-turnover performance from their quarterback and a reliance on the run game. Eventually, they're going to run into a team that can stop the run and force Trey to win the game through the air. And at that point, you're going to need Trey to be more consistent with his decision-making.
Right, and it's not just about winning these games, Ryan. Arizona State's got national championship aspirations, so they can't afford to just grind out wins with turnovers and relying on the run game every week. At some point, Trey's going to have to take that next step in his development. You can't win a national title if you're giving the ball away like this every other week.
I completely agree. So, with that in mind, Brent, let's think about it for a second. Can Arizona State continue to lean on this formula? Can they keep grinding out wins with the run game? Trey's flashes of brilliance through the air, and the defense making timely plays when they need to? Or is it too risky to keep putting everything on the back of their ground attack and hope that Trey doesn't cost them with another turnover?
That's a tricky question. I mean, Arizona State's got the talent to hang with just about anyone in the Big 12, but if they're thinking about a national title, that's a different ball game. They're going to need more consistency from Trey, and they'll have to prove that they can win with a more balanced attack, even when the run game isn't clicking. But right now, I think they're on the right path. They're not perfect, but they're doing enough to win these tough, gritty games.
Yeah, and that grit is going to serve them well in the long run. But to take it to the next level, they'll need that balance to hold up and for Trey to take care of the ball just a little more. They've got the talent, but we'll see if it's enough as we head down the stretch.
No question about it. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle the rest of the Big 12 schedule, especially as the competition heats up.
All right, folks, that's all the time we've got for today's episode of the Underdog Playbook. More exciting weeks of college football, and we'll be back next episode to break it all down. Thanks for listening, and be sure to tune in next time as we continue following Arizona State's journey in the Big 12 and beyond. Keep rooting for the underdogs.
I woke up to a text from my father, and he was like, man, we gotta show people how to be consistent. Right. How to be confident. Right. I said, man, well, with consistency comes confidence. Every time. Listen to that twice. Make sure you hear me. Yeah. Make sure you hear me. Look. The kitchen's still working, the pots is too dirty. Dry chips clip off the pan, it's too pearly. I woke up exercising, I'm in a mood early. The phone been jumping since 9 and it's only 2:30. Another dub and a half, something under the dash. I manifested growth cause I wanted it bad. I sidestepped the hate and hit a money run. Now that talking in town is okay, he's not one of them. I could give a fuck about gossip, the results are in. I'm really him, now y'all could stop it. My business did a half a ticket the first year. They ain't consistent, that's why they don't work here. My crib big as hell, my kids happy. My advice, find the right type and then get married. I came from shootouts in broad day. Now I got a lobby in my crib, that's a foyer. I got a Porsche and a Benz in the driveway. I used to sleep on the porch of my friends for 5 days. It was a cold winter in 06. My heart been broke like Broadway, but the dope flips. Looking back, I was a class clown, but ain't it funny I'm the one getting the last laugh now? Whoa, stupid, take control. I see my dog make an M off the stove. Whoa, bringing the load. You know me, I take the highs with the lows. Whoa, we take control. I done made at least an M on that road. Whoa, we take control. I see my dog make an M off the stove. Whoa, bringing the load. You know me, I take the highs with the lows. You ain't a man until you defeat yourself. It's a beautiful thing when you finally get to meet yourself, yeah. The chains come off, the money is large, the fake friends get lost, and God is the only source. I touch the level of growth that most don't. That's why I talk that most won't. The last guy in the gym and the first to arrive. The one with my arm in the rim and head to the sky. I got tired of sleeping in trailers, feeling like a failure. Now I'm grabbing coffee with my tailor. It's been a long time coming, but here I am, looking in the mirror like, yes, I can. I used to watch fiends like the bottom of the spoon, grab the needle, watch their life get consumed. I knew at that moment that I refused to lose. Now I'm giving jewels in a class on Zoom. I see how lessons can become the foundation of what knowledge is. I'm a high school dropout speaking at different colleges. Man, they can't duplicate my results cause they scared of the work. The reasons I ran it up, I wasn't scared of the work. I ain't stressed my goals, I prepared for it first. Never let the money make you. Have trust in your intuition and know where it could take you. Whoa, we take control. I see my dog make an M off the stove. Whoa, bringing the load. You know me, I take the highs with the lows. Whoa, we take control. I done made at least an M on that road. Whoa, we take control. I see my dog make an M off the stove. Whoa, bringing the load. You know me, I take the highs with the lows.
Welcome to the Underdog Playbook, your go-to podcast for all things Underdog in college football. I'm Ryan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Brent. What's up, Brent?
Not much, just ready to talk some football. We've got a lot to break down today, don't we?
We sure do. Today, we're diving into a quarterback that's been lighting up the stat sheet, but also raising some questions about his future in the big leagues. We're talking about Arizona State's Trey Camby and his performances over the last 3 regular season games against BYU, Kansas, and the University of Arizona. We'll kick things off with his game against BYU, where he absolutely shredded the defense.
Right, Trey went off in that game. 5 passing touchdowns, 513 passing yards, and a ridiculous passer rating of 207.4. Those are some eye-popping numbers.
Absolutely. I mean, when you put up stats like that, it's hard to overlook. But I will say he did throw 2 interceptions in that game. A couple of mistakes that definitely stand out. But you know what? Forget those interceptions for a second. Arizona State still won the game. And Trey played a huge part in that.
2 interceptions, Ryan, and both were ugly. He can't keep making those kinds of mistakes and expect to be a leader in a conference like the Big 12. I don't care about the yardage or the touchdowns, it's those turnovers that are the red flag. And they didn't just come out of nowhere. He's been a bit loose with the ball all season.
I see what you're saying, but it's hard to ignore the fact that he was still able to overcome those mistakes and get the win. I think we need to see more before we can just write him off, especially with 2 games left to go in the season. We can't make all our judgments based on 1 game.
Oh, I'm not writing him off, Ryan. I'm just saying, if you're a team gunning for a Big 12 title, those turnovers are going to come back to haunt you. He's a good quarterback, don't get me wrong, but when you're playing against top-tier competition week in and week out, that kind of inconsistency, those 2 interceptions could sink a season.
We'll see. We still have 2 more games to go. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves just yet. When we come back from the break, we're going to look at his performance in Arizona State's next matchup against Kansas. Stay with us, folks.
I don't even know how many tapes I dropped. I just know I ain't missing. Yeah.
I did come in for the 808.
Play the game like I'm supposed to. I see them all dropping. We gon' see who the last and the eavesdropping. Love homies talking big, fit you in my pocket. This is shorties you be digging in your wallet. Baby looking like a BBL, but it's natural. Waking up the views in a stack and a spatula. I'm a real G, no fanny pack satchels. Sticky pants, white tee, yeah, call it casual. We ain't talking about no tough shit, let's get money. Friday, I need to hear you say, baby, love me. I can be your nigga, I don't know about your hubby. Baby, do you understand? I'm all about this money. Where do I go when I'm feeling like a king? I just make it happen and it started with a dream. Last night I'm rolling up, Mary J. Sing. I can love you like nobody else, that's the hint. If they want a love story, go
and switch the route. Elevated hustling, that's what I'm about. I've been hearing that the West really in a drought. Jimmy Waters here to save the day without a doubt. Play the game like I'm supposed to, I see them all shopping. We gon' see who the last and the eavesdropping. Love homies talking big, fit you in my pocket. I'll be dancing shorties, you be digging in your wallet. Play the game like I'm supposed to, I see them all shopping. We gon' see who the last and the eavesdropping. Love homies talking big, fit you in my pocket.
Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook, the podcast where we talk all things underdog in college football. I'm Ryan, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host Brent.
What's up, Ryan? Ready to dive into another quarterback performance?
Was that sarcasm? In our first segment, we broke down Arizona State's Trey Camby and his monster game against BYU. But today, we're switching gears. Now it's time to talk about his performance against Kansas, and, let's just say it was a little more complicated.
That's an understatement. Trey Camby may have earned Player of the Game honors for his 380 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, but this might have been the worst game of his season despite Arizona State pulling out a win. Why? Because Trey threw 5 interceptions against Kansas. That's a massive red flag.
Yeah, it's tough to ignore that. I mean, 380 yards and 2 touchdowns sounds great on paper, but 5 picks? That's hard to justify, especially when you're facing a team like Kansas, who's good but not necessarily a top-tier defensive squad. Those turnovers almost cost Arizona State the game.
And that's where I'm at, Ryan. People can look at the stats and say, oh, he put up yards and touchdowns, but if you're turning the ball over 5 times, that's 5 opportunities for Kansas to take control of the game. You're just begging for disaster, and Arizona State barely escaped. Trey's not winning a Big 12 title playing like that, no matter what kind of stats he puts up.
I see your point, but I wouldn't throw out all the positives just because of a bad turnover day. He's still a dynamic player with a lot of upside.
Ryan, let me take the reins on this one. Let me lay this out for you. You know I like to get into the deeper philosophy of things, so here it goes. Trey Camby's game against Kansas wasn't just about 5 picks. It's about a pattern. When you're a quarterback who constantly puts the ball in harm's way like that, it shows a lack of discipline. You can't afford to do that in the Big 12. The best teams in the country don't beat themselves with mistakes like that. Against Kansas, Trey showed that he's not capable of handling pressure consistently. I get that he has a cannon of an arm and sure he can throw for big yards. But the mental side of the game, his decision-making, his ability to read the field and protect the ball, is lacking. 5 interceptions, Ryan. That's a big deal. And this isn't a one-off thing. His turnover problems have been lingering all season. Look, when you get to the postseason, you're facing the best defenses. You think teams like Texas, Oklahoma, or even Baylor are going to let you throw 5 picks and still win? No way. Trey can't afford to get reckless in those moments, or Arizona State's season will be over before it even starts.
I hear you, Brent. I really do. I just feel like, with his arm talent and ability to rally his team, it's a little early to completely count him out. Yeah, the turnovers are a huge issue, but he's young, and this is all part of his development. If he can clean up the mistakes, he's got the potential to do some serious damage, even in the Big 12.
If he can clean it up, Ryan, that's the key. But you and I both know that's a big if. And even if he does get it together, we're talking about him leading Arizona State to a Big 12 title, then possibly to a college football playoff game. I just don't see it with those kinds of turnover problems. I'll tell you right now, if Arizona State somehow gets to the playoff, Trey's not winning them that game if he's throwing interceptions like he did against Kansas. That kind of play will get you exposed against the big dogs.
I can't deny that turnovers in the postseason will absolutely kill you. But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. Arizona State's still got some games left. If Trey can find a way to finish the season strong, we might have a different conversation come bowl season.
All right, Ryan. Let's agree to disagree for now. But mark my words, if he can't clean it up the moment they face a truly elite defense, it's going to be lights out for Arizona State.
Fair enough, Brent. We'll see how it plays out. Before we head to break, let's remind our listeners. We've still got one more game to discuss, and this one's big. The Territorial Cup against the University of Arizona. When we come back from the break, we'll break down how Trey handles that pressure with a rivalry game on the line. Stick with us.
Tavares Jordan.
Just some real nigga gospel. Words from the heart. Eyes feeling low as I record in the dark. A lot of niggas fail, but I'm still building arcs. Can't finish shit, nigga, if you never start. Comparisons, nah, nigga, worry about progression. Worry about, nigga, you gon' learn from them lessons. Worry about what you gon' do with your blessing. Cause it's on the way, nigga, you just got tested. I'ma chill down to earth, nigga, really hate drama. Call her every day, cause I'm glad I got a mama. Homies lost theirs, yeah, that's real trauma. R.I.P. Mrs. Clark, you was like my mama. 10-year plus friendships all around. I'm a real homie, if you need me, then I'm down. Making player shit, but I'm real all around. When you hear me, I'm a gem that you found. I'ma probably never ever get my flowers. It's okay, real niggas die legend. Shit, I'm taking all my game straight to heaven. Looking down, hope my music is a blessing. I'ma probably never ever get my flowers. It's okay, real niggas die legend. Shit, I'm taking all my game straight to heaven. Looking down, hope my music is a blessing.
Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook, the podcast that gives you the inside scoop on all the underdog stories in college football. I'm Ryan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Brent. What's up, Brent?
Not much, Ryan. Just excited to wrap up today's breakdown. We've already talked about Arizona State's quarterback Trey Camby and his performances against BYU and Kansas, but now it's time for the big one, the Territorial Cup. Arizona State versus Arizona for the rivalry game, and boy, did this one have its moments.
You're right, Brent. Arizona State came into this one with a lot on the line, and Trey Camby led them to a tight win that ultimately ended with the Sun Devils in victory formation. It was a hard-fought game, and Trey took home Player of the Game honors once again. He finished with 393 passing yards, a 58.6 completion percentage, 1 rushing touchdown, and 2 passing touchdowns.
And 2 turnovers.
Yeah, I was getting to that. Of course, the 2 turnovers, I can't leave those out. But look, despite the mistakes, it was a big win for Arizona State, and it sealed their place in the Big 12 championship game. Trey showed his ability to move the ball and make plays in crucial moments. Still, the turnovers are a consistent problem, and we can't ignore that.
Exactly, Ryan. Every time he looks like he's about to take control of a game, he gives it right back. I mean, yeah, 393 yards is impressive, but those turnovers? At this level, you just can't afford to give away possessions like that, especially with everything on the line.
I hear you, Brent. It's hard to look past the turnovers, and I'm not going to pretend like they didn't almost cost Arizona State in this game. But I think it's also worth noting that Trey has a unique ability to stay calm and deliver in the clutch. His rushing touchdown, for example, was a critical play that helped secure the win. He's got that playmaking ability that can bail him out of tough spots even when he's making mistakes.
I won't argue with the fact that Trey's athleticism and ability to respond when things get tough is impressive, but he's still not what I'd consider a game changer when it matters most. If they're going to take down a team like Oklahoma or Texas in the Big 12 championship, he's going to have to show more consistency and clean up his decision-making. Right now, I don't trust him to win a title with the way he's playing.
It's going to be a big test for him. But before we dive deeper into that, Brent, I've got to ask, do you think there's someone who might be able to give us more insight into what it takes to win a championship game with a quarterback like Trey? Someone who shares your perspective on his potential?
Oh, no doubt. If I could bring anyone in to break this down, it would be Cam Newton. I mean, Cam is the guy who's been there, won the big games, led his team to a national title. He knows what it takes to be a game changer at quarterback, and I'd love to hear his take on what Trey needs to do to take that next step. Because right now, I just don't think Trey has the mentality or the consistency to win a game like that.
That's a great call, Brent. Cam Newton would be perfect to have on the show. He's got the experience, the pedigree, and the understanding of what it takes to thrive in those high-pressure situations. I mean, this guy led Auburn to a national title. He knows exactly what it takes to handle the spotlight and get the job done when it matters most.
Exactly. Cam can break down what Trey needs to work on, how he can elevate his game to the level it needs to be for a Big 12 championship, and potentially a college football playoff run. I'm just not sold on Trey being that guy who can lead Arizona State to a title if he doesn't make some big improvements.
I think we can agree that the jury's still out on Trey's ability to win it all, but we'll see. He's got the talent, there's no question about that. But the consistency, that's something we need to see more of, especially in a high-stakes game like the Big 12 championship. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on that.
And that's what makes the Big 12 championship so intriguing for Arizona State. I mean, this is it, the game that could define the season. Will Trey rise to the occasion, or will those turnover issues come back to haunt him? It's going to be a game of huge implications, not just for Arizona State's title hopes, but for Trey's future as well.
That's for sure. And while we're on the subject, we've got a special episode coming up where we'll dive deep into the Big 12 championship, Arizona State's title hopes, and Trey's potential path to the college football playoff. We'll break down everything you need to know leading up to the game and take a look at how Trey can put it all together when the stakes are at their highest.
I can't wait for that episode. This is going to be a game that will tell us a lot about Trey Camby and the Sun Devils, and whether they've got what it takes to make a run at a national championship.
It'll be a huge moment for them. But before we close out today's show, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the Territorial Cup to the Big 12 Championship, and there's so much more to come.
You won't want to miss that. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and we'll see you next time, folks.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Underdog Playbook. Catch you on the next one, and don't stop rooting for the underdogs.
And I'm just really having fun with this shit now. Like, how many bangers can I make? I feel like this shit ain't never gonna end. Let me turn this city up. I'm a nigga dropping heat back to back and then some. Rap on my beats like it's never been done. Racks in my pocket, get a bitch attention. Baby, don't talk back, silence like a nun. I'm a type of nigga pulling up, doing stunts. If I do fly shit, I never do it once. Took a quick flight, nigga, just to eat lunch. Bitch, I ain't do nothing, I just got a hunch. Listen here, I don't take no shit from nobody. Glock on my waist, but I ain't tryna catch a body. Niggas don't know how I feel to be somebody. Empty whole clip if a nigga try to rob me. Runners from my city and I'm coming for the coast. Menace International, let's party on the boat. I'ma grind heavy to these bitch niggas woke. I'm a big dog, I'm a bear, you don't poke. Real niggas coming back, let me shake the city. 40 racks, 50 racks, we don't want no pennies. Niggas playing penny pad, we be getting jiggy. Real money moves, raise your hand if you with me. Real niggas coming back, let me shake the city. 40 racks, 50 racks, we don't want no pennies. Niggas playing penny pad, we be getting jiggy. Real money moves, raise your hand if you with me. I don't care about these bitch niggas, I get low. I don't care about these hoe bitches, fuck her too. If you hating on my shit, then fuck you too. I'm not a character, I'm real life, I'll slap you too. It's a few niggas that I gotta run up on. I be tryna keep the peace, but they did me wrong. Niggas say let it slide, but I don't hear that song. Niggas talking tough, knowing they ain't logging on. Back to the money, we just need infinity. They be tryna shoot me down, John Kennedy. I'm feeling like Pops, money up, yeah today. Never trust a nigga when he getting fidgety. It's the rules of the game, but I'm boss like. You a flashlight, nigga, top flight. Niggas never see me coming, I don't act right. Like G Perico say, nigga, rap life. Real niggas coming back, let me shake the city. 40 racks, 50 racks, we don't want no pennies. Niggas playing penny pad, we be getting jiggy. Real money moves, raise your hand if you with me. Real niggas coming back, let me shake the city. 40 racks, 50 racks, we don't want no pennies. Niggas playing penny pad, we be getting jiggy. Real money moves, raise your hand if you with me.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Cam Newton, and you're listening to a special championship edition of the Underdog Playbook. As you know, Ryan and Brent usually hold it down, but today it's my turn to get this thing started. We've got a big show ahead, but I'm kicking things off with something that's been on my mind. A lot of folks are talking about Arizona State's huge matchup in the Big 12 championship against the University of Cincinnati. The Sun Devils were up against it, and man, there's no way around it. They took an L, but it wasn't just the defense. No, this one falls squarely on the shoulders of their quarterback, Trey Canby. And I got to tell you, folks, I'm not here to sugarcoat things. Trey Canby, he had a game to forget. Let's go through the numbers because they don't lie. 98.7 passer rating. Yeah, that's right. 98.7. Doesn't exactly jump off the page, does it? But it gets worse. Trey was 15 for 46 in passing attempts, a brutal 32% completion rate. 355 yards, which is nice. But here's the kicker. 2 touchdowns, sure, but 3 interceptions. 3. And just to make it worse, he had a fumble too. Not a good look for a guy who's supposed to be leading his team in the biggest game of the season. Now, I know some of you out there might be thinking, Cam, it's a tough game. Maybe he's got some things to work through. But let me be real with you. This game was a gut check. And Trey didn't pass it. I'm sure some of you are familiar with what Brent's been saying all season long about Trey's turnover issues. This kid, this redshirt sophomore, has been inconsistent all year with ball security. And you can't win championship games turning the ball over like that. No way. And honestly, when Brent hit me up earlier this week, he asked me for my advice on how Trey can fix it. He said, Cam, can you help us out here? Give Trey your best advice on how to reverse these turnover issues so it doesn't cost them big games. And trust me, that's a conversation worth having. Now, I've been there. I know what it's like when the weight of a game is on your shoulders, when you're expected to be the guy who carries your team and the pressure's through the roof. But that's part of being a quarterback. You're supposed to be the leader. And right now, Trey Canby, he's got to look in the mirror and realize that his decisions, his ball security, those things are what's standing between him and becoming the player he wants to be. So what do I tell Trey if I'm sitting down with him? First off, it's about simplifying the game. When you're struggling with turnovers, you've got to get back to the basics. Stop trying to do too much. Look, you don't have to hit the home run every time. Trey was forcing throws in that game, trying to fit the ball into windows that weren't there, and it showed. Second, I would say to trust his offensive line more. Too many times I saw Trey feeling like he had to escape pressure or throw on the run, but the offensive line wasn't as bad as he thought. If he could settle down, plant his feet, and give himself time to survey the field, he might find those open guys instead of panicking and turning the ball over. And lastly, confidence. You've got to believe in yourself, especially after a tough game. The mental part of the game is just as important as the physical. Trey has the arm, the talent, the potential, but he needs to trust it. And that means making smart, calculated decisions. Here's the thing. Trey Canby's got everything in front of him. This game doesn't define who he is as a player, but it sure can shape who he becomes. If he wants to be the guy that takes this Arizona State team to the next level, he's got to grow from this. He's got to clean up that turnover issue, because when you're in the Big 12 championship, you can't afford to give the ball away 3 times. You just can't. Now, before we wrap this up, let me say this one last thing. Arizona State's still got talent all over the field. Trey Canby, he's still a talented kid, and I believe he'll get it together, but he's got to learn, and he's got to learn fast. Because in big games, turnovers like this can be the difference between lifting that trophy and heading home empty-handed. All right, guys, that's my breakdown on the championship game. We've got to take a quick break, but when we come back, Ryan and Brent are going to jump back in here for the final segment of the season. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Stick around.
Try it again. Just try it again. Just try this shit again. This where we get real, the feeling I hate to feel, seeping through my veins. I hope the day go away. Is it meant for me to be okay? Lord knows it'll all show. One day I know my real ones feel the same way.
looking for change, hoping you find a way about the game.
All right, folks. Welcome back to the Underdog Playbook, the podcast where we talk all things college football, underdogs, and the moments that make us question everything we thought we knew. I'm Ryan, back with my man Brent after the big championship episode. And if you missed Cam Newton taking the reins earlier, trust me, you've got to go back and listen to that. Cam didn't hold back, giving us his straight-up, no-fluff breakdown of Arizona State's Big 12 championship. But now we're on to the college football playoff, and things are, not looking great for Arizona State.
You can say that again. Arizona State, after missing out on that coveted bye week, are now staring down a big challenge in Pasadena. They headed into that matchup with UCLA hoping to salvage what's left of their season and, well, it's safe to say the Sun Devils didn't exactly rise to the occasion.
Yeah, it was rough. I mean, let's paint the picture here. Arizona State was hanging around, down just 7 points at one point in the fourth quarter. We were thinking, okay, maybe they've got a chance to make a late push and at least make it interesting. But then the game kind of slipped away, and when the clock hit 0-0-0, they were down 17. 17, just like that.
I mean, they didn't even keep it close in the final stretch. It was like watching a team just unravel in front of your eyes. And let's not even get started on the offense. Trey Camby, look, we've talked about his turnover issues all season, but this was a whole other level. Five interceptions.
5 is right. It's one thing to throw a couple, maybe 3 in a game, but 5? That's catastrophic, especially in a game this important. And it wasn't just the interceptions. You saw UCLA's defense, especially their pass rush, absolutely wreck Arizona State. I mean, double-digit sacks? They put Trey on the ground like it was their job.
Well, it was their job, Ryan, and they did it well. I don't care how much potential Trey Camby has or how much hype surrounds him. If you can't protect the quarterback and he's throwing picks like candy, that's a recipe for disaster. And it's exactly what happened in this game. Arizona State didn't just lose, they were embarrassed. The game was effectively over after that last turnover in the fourth quarter. It wasn't even competitive after that.
No doubt. But all right, let's back up for a second. We're both sitting here talking about this loss, but we've also seen Trey's flashes of brilliance throughout the season. I'm not ready to totally bury the kid. I still think he's got something. You've got to look at the bigger picture. He's a redshirt sophomore. This was his first real shot at postseason play. It's a learning curve.
Ryan, we've been talking about his potential all season long, and at some point, the potential's got to show up. And what I'm seeing right now, it's not good enough. Trey can't keep making these same mistakes week in and week out. He's got the physical tools, there's no doubt about that, but mentally, he's still not there yet. 5 interceptions in a playoff game? I don't care how talented you are, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I hear you. It's tough to defend those kinds of numbers. But I think we're missing something here, Brent. Arizona State is an underdog story. They've come a long way, and yeah, maybe they're not ready to compete with the absolute elite just yet. But that's why they're in the playoff picture. They earned their spot. I think with the right development, Trey could still be a major asset for this team. A little more consistency and a lot fewer turnovers. And suddenly, Arizona State looks a lot more dangerous.
Oh, I'm sure. A little more consistency. Okay, I guess that's all it'll take. Ryan, I'm not saying Trey can't improve. Of course he can. But that turnover problem, that problem needs to be fixed before next season, or this team's going nowhere. Arizona State's coach, the offensive coordinator, their entire staff, they need to have a serious conversation about Trey's future as the starting quarterback. Because if things stay the way they are, they'll be looking for a new QB sooner than later.
All right, but look, let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. I think Arizona State's got a couple of key areas to address in the offseason. First off, they need to look at that offensive line. If Trey's getting hit that much, if he's under constant pressure, he's not going to be able to show what he's really capable of. The line has got to give him more time to make decisions. But also, I'm with you on Trey. He's got to clean up his game. That's got to be job number 1. We can't keep making excuses for him. If he's the guy, he's got to show it.
I get that. I do. But you're talking about a serious issue here. You can't have your quarterback throwing 5 picks in a playoff game and expect things to improve just by adding more time in the pocket. He's got to make better decisions. point blank. And I'm not convinced that's something that can just be fixed over the offseason. It's been a problem all season, and at this point, I think it's fair to wonder if it's part of his game that's just not going to improve the way everyone hoped.
Brent, you're tough on the kid, man. But I get it. I think the offseason will be huge. If Trey wants to be the guy, he's got to take this failure and use it as motivation. If he can't bounce back from this, then we'll be having a different conversation next year.
I'm just calling it like I see it. It's a big offseason for Arizona State and for Trey Camby. If they can't get this quarterback situation under control, this whole program's going to be in trouble.
All right, let's wrap it up here. It's been a crazy season, but we're not done yet. Arizona State's got a lot to think about in the offseason, and that quarterback situation, it's going to be the #1 item on the agenda. But folks, that's it for today. We'll be back next season to see how this all shakes out, but until then, thank you for sticking with us through the highs and the lows of this season. Brent, man, any last thoughts before we close it out for the year?
No, I think I've said enough. You've heard my take on Trey Camby and the Sun Devils. Looking forward to seeing how it all plays out next year, though.
And as always, I'll stay optimistic. Until next season, folks, thanks for tuning in to the Underdog Playbook. We'll see you next time. Don't stop rooting for the underdogs.